What was that, buddy?
Greetings and welcome once again to Roman of the Empire. I am your host, Roman. Tonight, we are in round 2 of groundbreaking comics, books whose stories had fantastic art, plots that really changed the landscape of comics as we know it, or just went outside of the box. And with me tonight, I have my pretty regular co-host, Shieldwall of Dragons. Shieldwall, how are you this evening?
Your mic's muted, bro.
I'm good. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Sorry.
This happens. I'm going to have to find, I'm going to send you some Adderall, something to keep you up.
No, I had an appointment today. I had to drive out of state and then back in. So, but I'm here. I'm glad to be on the panel. I'm glad to see everybody here. Going to learning experience for me. So, yeah, good to be here.
Right on. And Matt, one of the great minds of the interweb, the unbearable 73, the Thad that shouldn't be here. How are you this evening, sir?
Doing pretty good. It's been a solid week, you know. Not too much bad has happened, I guess we would say, in the world we live in. So there we go.
It's all I hope for anymore. Yeah. And again, with us, second time on the show, following up from our last conversation. It's great to have her back. Comics and Cosmetics. Danny, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm still here. I'm getting ready to pack my bags and start my next month of travel.
Yeah.
Excited.
That'll be fun. And you're making your way to my coast eventually.
Yeah, for ribs.
For the ribs, yes. Come for the Hollywood, stay for the ribs. In fact, I would just come for the ribs, but you're actually getting a lot out of this, so it's a good trip for you.
I am.
And I don't know, something happened there. I don't know what it was.
There's
I'm okay with it.
Like some gnats flying by.
Like, in fact, if you're ever in a crowd,
you all got to make like arm motions and stuff.
And you're trying to get away from someone, just start yelling bees and doing this. It works out fine. Or start making porpoise sounds. People find that off-putting, and they just get out of your way. So,
what was that movie where people on social media being murdered, like a Facebook? Help!
And hopefully that doesn't happen this evening. But
fingers crossed, Roman. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. You never know. You never know how these streams are going to go. And back with us after a bit of a hiatus, and it's very, very good to have him back. Our good friend Daniel. How are you tonight, my friend?
Thank you, Roman. Feels like I've been gone for a month. Feeling good. Voice is somewhat back to normal.
You sound. I'm gonna be the first one to say it. You sound sexy.
That
I'm not going to say I'm not aroused because I am.
It's that little bit of gravelly, in the back of the throat. Yeah,
it's nice. And with us once again, he's getting irritated that I keep calling him. It is Copa Catania. How are you tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great. I don't have the sexy Daniel voice with me tonight, but I'll try and get sick later on next week.
Okay, I appreciate that. It'll help for the stream.
Yeah,
and I do. You've got your halo back though, and that's really all that. Yeah, your other than earthly glow.
Yeah, it's a healthy glow. It's the California tan coming through. It's all that.
Was it vitamins, Pilates? What are you doing?
Both.
It's okay
at once.
See it. I have to use expensive products to get that. So. Good for you.
It puts the lotion on its skin or it gets the hose again. I'm sorry. I couldn't just leave that there.
No.
You can't. With us for the first time, it is Eye E.G.O. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thank you. Everyone, hi chat. You got Left Eye Ego here. Mr. Roman of the Empire, thank you for having me on. Feels great to be here. Thank you.
Now, this is awesome. Hopefully, we don't scare him off. So, everybody, just behave. I mean, really, just pretend this once, please.
Why?
Try
No,
for
man.
me just a little
Yeah.
bit.
He knows better.
Doesn't sound like fun
man.
at all.
No, you guys got me
And-
good. The minute I jumped in, y'all were like, "Hey, I can't hear you." I was like, "Oh no, I did it again." Oh,
If you saw AJ in Ego's last Heroes No Capes, Ego is on. I would say that was a good 5 to 7 minutes trying to get his audio, and it's gold.
God.
It's internet gold.
Poor guy.
Because he's like, and AJ's like, no man, I still can't hear you. And he's like, and it was good. It was good. I, as a man who has technical difficulties myself, I can appreciate a good technical difficulty. So out in the chat right now, and we've got a lot of folks out there right now. So thank you for being here. We have again, my eyes are fighting with me right now. The Lamb Mitzi Show. This is the first time that I have seen you in the chat. Welcome to the show. Cannoli Sasquatch is out there. How you doing, buddy?
Canoe.
Let's see. Our resident Jacob Ironside, the master of the meme. Oops, and of course, you're here. That was an accident on my part. Alex is not here, folks. He's literally right here.
And in the chat.
And I shouldn't be in charge of anything. And that looks like we got what we got for chat right now. So thank you for hanging out with us, guys, as we get rolling on our groundbreaking comics volume 2. Last time we did this, I think everybody got a book in.
Yeah.
Because we're nerds and we tend to get real chatty about stuff that we really like. So that's it's what happens. You know, it's when you say it's not going to happen, but it's going to happen. So we're gonna start with Left Eye E.G.O tonight because he is the new guy on the stream. So what do you got for us? What is your groundbreaking comic that you want to talk about, Left Eye?
So when going over this, I found the concept of legacy characters was the theme that I found out. And so for me, even though I have a large collection of his books, even though I don't really like the character that much, it's actually Batman's Black Mirror, the Scott Snyder one that came out, I think it was 2011. So right here.
Batman Black Mirror.
Yes.
Let me see if I can track that down.
That's fine.
Black Mirror.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with that book either.
Yeah,
really. So basically, it's actually written after Batman dies, and then he comes back. And so during that time frame, there was a comic called Battle for the Cow because everyone knew that Batman was dead, and so it was trying to figure out who was going to take the mantle of Batman. Was it going to be Timothy Drake? Was it going to be Dick Grayson? Or was it going to be Jason Todd? And so even though Dick Grayson doesn't want to be Batman at all because he knows it's shoes too big to fill, he winds up reluctantly taking the cowl. And so for the next, I don't know if it was a year or a few years, he actually winds up having his own series of Batman books. So he has a book with Damian Wayne. It's Batman and Woman. That went 3 volumes. He's got a few other solo books that came out. I actually have almost every Dick Grayson as Batman trade that came out with him as Batman.
If I could interject briefly,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Don't get confused. It was originally published in, I think, the Detective or Batman comics itself. In other words, it was 10 issues or whatever. So if this is literally like when I stopped reading DC Comics. I like Dick Grayson as Batman, and then they shot the boot with that one, and I was like, yeah, they're done. You know, it's like
yeah.
So
it was no, I completely understand. I didn't. Go ahead.
You were right. I really enjoyed it. Like with Dick Grayson finally stepping up. You know, not replacing Bruce, but being his own Batman. And I thought they would run with that for a few years because it was post. Remember I was talking about the whole Crisis Infinite Earths, ending in Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, the whole period last time. This was the reboot, like right after all of that, you know. And Bruce was dead, really lost in time, and Dick stepped up to be Batman. Chaos was rampant in Gotham. Even the good guys were like, "What do we do?" And Dick stepped up, and it would for Batman fans, it was a really like they can do something with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Legacy characters. You know, like they could do
Yes.
something with it, and
Yes.
they like
Is this the
shot
right?
themselves in
This
the
is the
foot.
right book here, or the right
Yeah,
collection?
yeah,
of books?
Is it by someone
Scott
named Snyder?
Yeah, Scott Snyder. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
okay,
was.
got
So yeah, it was. I really like the concept of it because out of all the Justice League characters, I know that pretty much almost all of them have died, and none of them have pretty much stayed dead. But in my mind, Bruce Wayne was the only Batman that could have stayed dead and actually have Dick Grayson take up the mantle of Batman, and it'd actually still be good, and you don't really lose anything from it. The concept that I really enjoyed the most was that even though he doesn't want to be Batman, he actually doesn't want to be by himself. Batman does everything, and he's very isolationist in everything. He's like, I'm a reluctant Justice League member. I've got my own team. I lead my own teams, but I'd rather be by myself. Dick Grayson reaches out for help in every aspect during this book. And so it seems like it's almost 3 stories, but it's primarily 2. He's trying to figure out who's going around with stolen contraband from Arkham Asylum that the regular people are getting their hands on. And the other one is trying to figure out whether or not Jim Gordon's son is actually a serial killer. And
it.
so,
Oh wow.
yeah,
a
it was a really great, right. It was a really great concept because when Dick Grayson is actually trying to figure out who's selling these contraband on the black market, like some of Joker's old infected toxin or some of Killer Croc's serum that turned him into Killer Croc. He's actually wound up going to a black market. It's like a black market auction for like the crowbar that killed Jason
Yeah.
Todd. And so he does like, oh, I need a disguise. And so he actually enlists Lucius Fox to help him put on a 3D mask to help him appear as though he's one of these rich, well-to-do Gotham socialites so that no one will seem the wiser. And so he goes in there, and then it turns awry because the gas mask that he's supposed to put on actually infects him with the fear toxin. And so there's a point where he winds up fighting off all these socialites that actually want to literally tear him apart. And so you see him jump out of the window and he blacks out, and then he wakes up. And you don't really find out what happened to him because you think that they would find him. And so in part 2 of the story, where he's trying to track down and figure out if Jim Gordon's son is a sociopath, he's like, who do you think saved you from the mob? And you're like, Jim Gordon's son saved him, because he's like, well, hey, I was doing this because I actually have a plan to turn people into actual sociopaths with medication. So you find out that he's actually supposed to take medication to help him have feelings. And he's like, well, if I can take a medicine to have feelings, yeah, that's the scene. Yeah, he's like, why should that's him wearing the mask? That was a 3D printed mask of a socialite that wound up dying in a car crash. And so he's actually trying to rip off the gas. Everyone's wearing a gas mask there because it's supposed to filter out the toxin, but he took the filter off of Dick Grayson's masks. So right here, Etienne's the guy with the cane and the crowbar saying, hey, go get him because he's actually the Batman and he's free of charge. Just tear him apart. And so he's trying to figure out, I have to get out of this situation. And so, but yeah, for that scene, he's doing that. And you figure out that you flash forward and Jim Gordon's son is saying, well, hey, if I have to take a medication to make me feel feelings, well, then I can reverse engineer that to take away those feelings. And so he has this whole big thing of, I didn't even know what I wanted to do until I saw you. And he said, what do you mean you saw me? He said, I saw Batman, but the problem was you weren't Batman. You were smiling. And I knew you weren't Batman. And because Barbara's my stepsister and I've met you, I knew it was you. So I knew if you were comfortable being you, then I should be comfortable being me. And I should be the more evolved species that's around the corner of being like the next great thing, people that don't feel.
Oh.
And so it was really great to me.
Oh,
Because,
is this image from this book?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I have this image. Oh man, that is amazing.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. So basically, he makes everyone throw off the scent that they think that the Joker does it because he uses the Joker's toxin. But the Joker's like, I want nothing to do with you, Batman, because I know you're not Batman. Please bring the real Batman back to me. I miss him. It was a really weird scene in that, but they have these kind of flashbacks where they show you that Jim Gordon, when he was first married, his wife was really worried. She's like, hey, he's not crying as a kid for anything. And on the other hand, he's dressing up as the Joker for Halloween, and he doesn't know why it's not a good thing to do. And so they show you that Barbara has one of her girlfriends from like they're 12 or 13. It's like, hey, where are all the boys at? You know, we're getting away for the week, and we can hang out or whatever. And James is saying, well, hey, I see you have a detective kit. Can I open it? She's like, no, why would you want to do that? He's like, well, I want to see what's in there. She's like, well, it has a friend key lock. So if two friends have the key, you can open it. And so he starts positing. He's like, well, I only wanted to see what to open it if, she were to go away. And I was like, what do you mean go away? She said, oh, I mean, if she moved. And so she leaves later that night and she never comes back. And so Jim Gordon comes home one day after Tim's home that night after everyone's going out looking for at the lake house, and he sees his son with a detective kit and it's open. And he's like, James, what have you done? He's like, I opened it with a regular knife, Dad. Why would you assume that I did something? And so the whole time, yeah.
Sorry, I'm fighting with the
no, it's fine. It's fine.
It's got nothing that I want.
No, I'm sorry. I'm telling the story in parts and pieces and out of order. I'm just
it's great.
It's a great story. It's just hard to understand the entirety of the context because of this is when DC's reboot spam started.
Yeah, it was a lot going on. It got lost in the shuffle. It was a really great book. I mean, so you fast forward and you find out that Jim Gordon threw his son into Arkham for a few nights to kind of like get it out of his system, to like say, hey, I'm trying to scare you straight. And so he's talking to Barbara, and I'll tell you how he winds up talking to her. He's talking to Barbara. Yes, that's the scene right there at the lake house. And Jim Gordon's narrating parts of this too, about his son and like, wow, why didn't I see it when he was younger? Because Barbara always saw it. And so when James Gordon is talking to his sister, he's like, Dad threw me into Arkham for a few nights to scare me straight. You say, what the funny thing about that? Who was a few cells down from me? It was the Joker. And so he says, he's like, you know what? I actually told him that you should really slow down and like sit down somewhere in a chair. And this is when Barbara's paralyzes Oracle. And you're like, no, he didn't. She's like, you did. He's like, no, but you thought about it. It was a funny joke, right? And you're just like, it really could have worked if you made James Gordon Dick Grayson's Joker. They didn't have to be chaos and order the way the traditional Batman and Joker are. It could have been, I'm going to be me in this situation, and you're going to be you, and who's going to win with that? Because again, Dick Grayson and James Gordon are friends. And so it was just a great book with the way that Dick Grayson keeps reaching out to people for help. He doesn't isolate himself to anything. He's always going to reach out for help. And he actually winds up making this multi-million-dollar laboratory specifically for Gotham PD. And so he invites James Gordon in because Jim Gordon's like, well, hey, I have the sample I need to run. And so they're chit-chatting, and you figure out that they're following Peter J. Tomasi's concept that Dick Grayson's actually ex-police too. So in Peter J. Tomasi's in the run, he actually leaves Gotham, goes to Bloodhaven, becomes a police officer. And I think at one point becomes commissioner, right? So he acknowledges, hey, you used to be PD. What do you see? What do you think? And so after the end of this book, when everything's resolved, Jim Gordon is talking to Dick Grayson, and he's like, hey, Dick, I want to say thank you. He's like, Commissioner, it's no problem. And he cuts him, he's like, no. I mean, thank you. And you're like, damn, Jim Gordon knows that Dick Grayson's Batman. And it's like, oh, wow. It blew my mind with the concept that Jim Gordon would be okay with it and actually be thankful that, hey, you saved my son, but you also saved my daughter from being murdered by my son. Just, it ran in so many different directions for me reading it. I didn't know that I was actually going to be that into reading this kind of book. But I mean, yeah, it's one of my top books. I mean, I just loved every moment of this.
And what makes it even more amazing, what could have been is, for those out there who don't know, Dick Grayson was the first Robin many, many years ago. So he separated from Bruce. He grew up, became his own character of Nightwing, established his own way of doing things. And when he came back to be Batman, he didn't just become Bruce 2.0 and be crazy, like not crazy, not that Bruce is crazy, but Bruce's way. He became his own Batman.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and it was a lot of fans kind of liked that direction, the way they were taking it.
Yeah.
Until this was the last pre Flashpoint Batman story, basically.
Yep. Yeah, and then they did the whole Batman Incorporated thing, and it was too many Batman, because at this point it's almost like Bruce is almost back, but he wants to make Batman all over the world. It got really weird like after this, but I mean, for Black Mirror and for all of the Batman and Robin spinoffs where Dick Grayson's Batman and Damian Wayne as Robin, it was the best Batman run to me that I read up until that point. Yeah,
it was probably the best Batman story, I would say, of that 5 to 10 year period.
Oh yeah, agreed. Oh yeah.
I mean, every other Batman story I could think of that I would consider great is before the year 2000.
Fair point. I mean, it's like there. I mean, the only other Batman books that I read that were actually good were.
When did The Long Halloween?
It wasn't really. Which one?
The Long Halloween.
When did that come out?
I'm looking stuff up now.
It was written by Jeff Loeb. So that was after 2002. Wasn't? No, it was 97. It was in the 90s. Yeah, so it was. That was the last one. It was long. Like when I think of the Batman, great Batman stories, other than this one, I think of Long Halloween, Batman Year One, 10 Nights of the Beast, Gotham by Gaslight.
Okay.
My favorite
I
Batman
wanted to
story.
just triple check I was right, but Under the Red Hood.
Yeah.
That's
a great one too.
That came out. Okay. No.
That's pre-Flashpoint 2, I think, too, right?
Yeah, I think it was 2006, 2005, 2006.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was related to Infinite Crisis. It was in that whole Infinite Crisis period.
I love Under the Red Hood. I think it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, because he came back from the dead due to Superboy Primes.
Yep.
Punching reality. It was a weird thing. Yeah.
Well, it's a pre-crisis thing.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's pre-crisis. They have so many crises.
Well, no,
they get all convoluted. They got to reset it all over again.
Right.
I mean, pre-crisis means pre-crisis Infinite Earths for people. I know. I don't even making a joke, and it's funny. It's just because DC had that crisis spam
what have they had? 3 or 4 of them at this point?
No, after they had. Okay, so not gonna do the long history of this, but there was a bunch of stuff that led into Crisis on Infinite Earths. Right, that was the early '80s.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was nothing. Then there was some events like that spilled out of that, like Millennium, 0 Hour, which is a second part of the Crisis reset. Like Crisis Infinite reset space and 0 Hour reset time. Okay, then there was pretty much nothing until Infinite Crisis came along and was and the way Grant Morrison set it up, it was the concluding part of the Crisis Infinite Earths, where they put back the elements that were good that they got, like Superboy, which they didn't really want to get rid of, but someone convinced them to get rid of certain story elements back then. So then they did that Infinite Crisis, the Final Crisis arc. Then they were pretty much done. There was no, but then all of a sudden after this, someone go, hey, let's just reboot it every year. We have #1 issues of everything coming out year after year. They did Flashpoint, which was New 52. Then they rebooted like 2 years later again. Then they rebooted again. And then they just did another one like Rebirth or whatever.
Multiple Earths.
Yeah.
Well, 0 Hour and Rebirth are that's all tied together.
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah.
Well, the real 0 Hour was a good storyline.
0 Hour. The Doomsday Clock. Doomsday Clock. I'm sorry. I'm mixing up my time device. You don't have to forgive me. I'm very old. But wow. Okay. Ego, that's fantastic. That sounds like a really cool book that I now want to look for. So
yeah, totally.
For your notes, folks who are out there, that would be Batman: The Black Mirror.
Black Mirror. Yep.
I have to read that.
I'm going to blow it up again so folks can see it. Ego.
I got you. Go ahead.
You did a very good job of selling that.
And funny enough,
I
don't know. I brought up originally when it was saying because it was in Detective Comics. What's his face? The editor Dan Didio from DC commented, people are buying old comics and graphic novels and not new comics. Anyone remember that lament he did about 3 or 4 years ago? And you hold up the graphic novel and not the original comic, kind of like just weighing right in on his point,
Yeah, I was, I got reading into comics. Like I didn't start it until like 2009, but even then it was like, I'll try to get, the one book that I can afford on there, or, get a few issues here or there. And I was like, well, I mean, if you got a whole collection like this, I'll go and buy this outright, and it kind of ballooned into getting Invincible, the omnibus. I didn't even know that was a thing until a few years ago. So
That thing's a
yeah.
beast.
Yeah.
It is. I just finished the first one. I'm like, I don't even
it's
know if
like
I have
this
time to do the second one. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this again.
It's like trying to get
Everyone
into
out there.
Berserk. Like I was looking at Berserk and I'm like, I can't do that.
If you want to get
Yeah.
into
It's too
comic
much.
books, like
I have a-
piles of them, go on eBay, search for comic books, and people like when their relatives die, just put them in a box and say
Yeah, they
$50
do.
for this
Long
lot.
box.
And-
I got my
Oh, yeah.
Secret Wars for free.
Oh my god, that's so awesome! Secret
Ooh.
Wars,
Nice.
Jim Shooter.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
I got my Secret Wars for free. All my Conan. I have. Is it all the where is it at? It's probably hanging up all the way over there. But I got this X-Men book from 1984 that was in it too. Like, it's so cool.
Go to
Yeah.
some garage sales and eBay.
They walked into my salon and they're like, "Here, you want this?" And I said, "Yes, I
Yes,
do."
please. Nice.
eBay is like the old garage sale, like you were saying. Like if you're in the suburbs, you're driving around, see a garage sale, go in there because you get piles of comic books, and DVDs and Blu-rays for cheap.
Well, one day when I die, my children will have all of this in the driveway. So keep an eye out for it, folks.
Well,
Sometime in
and
the next
you're
4
the
months.
oldest one here, so we'll just wait.
I just
Party
want
That's
of
that,
all you have to do. You just got to
just
wait
want-
me out.
I just want that McReady toy you got. That's all.
I want all the Doctor Who
Where
stuff.
is McReady? Right?
I think he's
there.
I think he's on your end cap.
Yep.
I know
Yeah, sorry,
exactly
it's a
where he is. Don't worry about it.
I
I'll
got
point
it
him
a
out.
little
to you later.
darker out here tonight. My lighting was being finicky, so I'm either a little bit in the dark or I am glowing like it's like I'm on fire. It's not good. So you get this. It is what it is. I hate it. all.
Yeah. Matt's right. Back in the day, if you wanted to find, you could just stumble upon stuff at yard sales.
Yeah.
Like old TV guides. What the hell would I need a 1975 TV guide for?
You
but
never
next to that,
know.
for a dime, but next to that might be like a comic, a rare comic or something. It might be a little dog-eared, but it'd be something you never heard of before.
I have one issue of TV Guide saved up, assuming it survived the Great Flood a couple of years ago. It's I had a flood that destroyed like 2/3 of my comic books. And,
Oh
and
no!
a
Oh
lot of my books
God!
or whatever. But
I'm sorry.
anyway, that one TV Guide, the one I saved, I think was worth at the time $140.
What is it? What's on the
It
cover?
was a
What
cover-
makes it so
It
special?
was a Star Wars cover or something like that. I don't remember I only saved it because like I thought the cover was cool and threw it in my bin. But then I went looking like, what do I have this for? And and because I was like always thinking, let's see if it's worth anything. And I looked, and it was like, wow,
I did the same thing, Matt. I used to keep TV guides, and then we moved. Moving is an unfortunate purge time. So it's like, man, I got this big, heavy ass box. What is in here? It was Rolling Stone magazines and TV guides. And I'm like, it's just got to go. And I had, because it was during the first, when X-Files was on back in the day. So I had that stuff. Is it worth anything? Were they worth anything?
I think
it
the
doesn't
first
matter now.
X-Files TV Guide is worth quite a bit.
Well, it's gone now. So,
Well, you
but I
wanna know
have
what's
more
mine?
room in the closet.
You want to know something? My grandmother had the first 300 issues of Action Comics.
First
Oh my
300.
gosh.
Oh,
Her mother kept throwing them away because she didn't think you should keep comic books. When in the 1960s, right, before my great grandmother died, my grandma showed her mother what those would have been worth, and she said if my mother almost died then when she saw the value of those comic books she threw away.
Oh yeah.
Wow,
That happened to my
horrible.
father, but it was baseball cards. He had a rookie card of Mickey Mantle
Wow.
and Roberto Clemente. And then my grandmother is Sicilian. So when he went off to fight in Vietnam, he came back home. He said, "Where's my baseball cards?" She said, "I threw them away because, I mean, you're a man now."
My father, the same story. He had Superman comic books, and my grandmother threw them out.
Yep.
He came home. He had them under his bed. He came home, and she had thrown them all out. And he's like, "What? What happened?" She's like, "That's all. That's children's stuff."
Yeah, that's what she told him too.
I would
The
have
Mickey Mantle card. What are you going to do with the Mickey Mantle card, Johnny?
Well, apparently not buy a car now.
My ex-husband stole my framed Wonder Woman comics when one of the few times she lost her title as Wonder Woman to another Amazon named Orana. Stole my comics and sold them at a pawn shop.
Did you report him for theft?
I
You were
live
too
in a
nice.
small town in
You
Missouri.
were way too
Oh,
nice.
goodness gracious.
Did he at
Oh,
least?
So that's why you
get a
need
coin
safety
for 'em?
deposit boxes, kids. If it's important, just like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory, you put it in a safety deposit box.
Deposit box.
I wanted it hanging on my wall so I could look at her beautiful face.
Man. Well, let's stop depressing the people like me and move on to our next. I think Copa, we'll go with you this round. What do you got for us?
Okay, I'm just going to do it because we didn't do it last time.
do it.
So
The Watchmen. That here, I'm going to blow you up.
let's
That
do
is
the Watchmen.
All right.
That's one
this
of my
is one
picks.
of my all-time favorite books, and I actually have photos to go along with this, so I don't have to. Actually, Ego, I wanted to apologize because I'm a bit of a. That book wasn't in the, that site that I went to last time. That has like every comic book known to man.
Yeah.
That one's not there.
Comicsonline.com.
And I think you picked that one, Ego, just to make me look bad. This will not be tolerated. The dude does not abide.
Oh,
Okay,
that's what
so-
you get for trying to get my audio, man. The audio joke. That's what you get.
Really, that was revenge for the audio joke?
It was.
It's unnecessary, maybe a little harsh. All right, give me 1 second here, Copa, and I can pull up
Sure.
the stills from this.
Totally.
You can start talking while I'm
Yeah, well,
getting
I
stuff
mean,
up.
first of all, it's good because it's winner of the Hugo Award. And then they also got one of Time Magazine's 100 best novels. So it's good.
Yeah,
You have to
novel,
pick it up.
not graphic novel.
Not graphic.
Novel.
Well, I looked it up. It's the only graphic novel on that list. Yeah.
All right, so here we go. And I've only got like 100 slides, so don't worry, it's no big deal.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a massive amount of slides on this.
I really love this book. This was one of the ones that if no one else was going to get to this, we were going to get to this.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, now
what
I
is
gotta
it?
think of something else because that was my one of my last two.
Well, see, I thought you were going to pick Isom, so I went Watchmen.
Oh, no.
You were talking Isom so much, I was like, I'll do Watchmen.
Well, I was
then.
just excited that I got to read it.
Oh, okay.
And it should be pointed out, one of the things that made Watchmen and what Alamo was doing so effective was it came out right after Crisis on Infinite Earths when old heroes were being re-examined and relaunched and whatnot.
Yeah. This is one of the first, if not the first, where it deconstructs the hero.
Yes.
And I think this kind of when the movie came out, it made everybody kind of re-examine the hero again and try to deconstruct it. I think what a lot of modern entertainment has forgotten is that when you deconstruct a hero, you're also supposed to make them likable still. And all these characters in this one, even if they're some kind of wretched human being, like
That
let's
would be
say
the comedian.
the comedian, he has some kind of likability to him as well. And what works on with this book, especially with me, is just how multifaceted it is. It works on a noir level. It works on a alternative history level.
Mhm.
It works on a superhero
I love
level.
that, by the way, Copa, the alternate history
Yeah,
where
we won Vietnam.
Nixon- we won Vietnam, and that was the change event,
Right.
and that changed everything. Well, Dr. Manhattan, I guess, was the change event because he won Vietnam, but
Right. And you would think that by winning Vietnam, that would have changed the outcome of the Cold War, but it hasn't. It actually escalated it even further.
Yeah.
And then with Dr. Manhattan, that even makes it even worse.
My favorite thing about this is that it's a self-contained story and the detail
yeah.
all there.
Yes.
There is no need
Yes.
for extra information.
No.
He doesn't have to retcon or add additional info later to explain something. Everything you need to know is within this series. And every page, it's all useful information. There's no like wasted space
Exactly.
or wasted time.
And
That's
every
Yes,
character in this book is fully fleshed out.
Ugh.
Yeah.
You know their backstory,
Yes.
you know who they are, you know what their
Mhm.
motivation is. And what I like about I can't remember who the artist is. I'm sure you guys can fill me in on that. But you see, like what I noticed when I first read this was that there was a lot of pages with 9 panels, and it started really reminding me of a clock. And a clock plays a big symbol in
That's
the
true.
They're counting down to
the doomsday clock, counting down
doomsday
to
clock.
annihilation.
Huh.
So there's a lot of uses of 9 panels, and if you start looking at it like kind of further back instead of like your face up close reading the words, if you look back at it, it kind of looks like a clock. It kind of
like a clock.
see right there.
yeah.
Huh.
Kind of plays off.
It's a very traditional use of style in terms of the art design and the paneling.
I don't remember the artist's name, but he's a British artist who does
Well,
a lot
let
of
me
like Drudge Dread and
Is
all
it
the-
Dave Gibbons?
Yeah. It was
Okay.
Don
Here,
or
I-
Dave or
Here,
Dan.
give me 1 second. I actually have that on a separate page.
I
Cool.
think
I've got
for
give me-
me, it was probably the most intriguing book I ever
That's a
read.
good word.
It just it kept me.
Mhm.
Just I mean, not just you didn't there wasn't a need for a whole dump of exposition. Everything was recognizable. I lived through the 80s.
Yes.
You know, it was very immersive. It was very immersive, and it kept you right there. the whole
Show,
time.
don't tell.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Mark
And when
Twain.
they do tell you, I mean, it's phenomenal. Like you have Hollis Mason's entire autobiography in there.
Yeah.
That kind of gives you the backstory of the original Watchmen. So you have that backstory going on, and then you have Tales of the Black Freighter that runs.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
about to
I
ask
say
that.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, Coppola, what your thoughts were on the pirate
Dave
story.
Gibbons was the artist.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
that pirate story in there is a second, universe and a second story and a like almost a subliminal retelling of the story that you're reading.
Mhm.
Right. And
A
it's also a
comic.
foreshadowing of what's
Yes.
to come.
And
Well,
I love the fact that it's like in that universe, superhero comics aren't a thing, pirate comics are a thing.
Yeah. I
It's
never
like
thought of it
you're-
that way before. That's great.
There's this saying that well, I normally have it about women coworkers, but the black sails seem to say was we're more likely to eat our own than help each other out. We're more
Yeah.
likely to eat our own than lift each other up.
Right.
I do hair, man. I've worked with a lot of women.
But yeah, so you have this rich denseness of character. It's almost like they left no stone unturned for you. They've completely fully fleshed out everything for you. You're just along for the ride, and by the end of the book, you completely understand where these characters end up, who they are. I mean, you have the black and white character of Rorschach, who is just it's either good or bad, yes or no, right or wrong, and he stands on the side of justice no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what.
No matter what. And then you have the uber logical Dr. Manhattan, to where he has it seemingly doesn't look like he has any humanity left in him. Everything he does is just on a logical basis. Like if it logically makes sense to him, he's doing it. If it doesn't,
the whole book is filled with that polarity with each character.
Yeah.
I really love how, I mean, it's a perfect. Oh, there's Dr. Manhattan's giant blue dong just bouncing across.
Once again, Roman showing Dom and boobs and stuff.
One time.
I just as a fan, as a writer, as an old person who has read and seen a lot of stories, it's a perfect story. It is an example of perfect storytelling because we have an emotional attachment to each of these characters. So by the time the story wraps up, we feel for each. I mean, I'm a loss for words on how else to describe that, but they did a perfect job of getting us to attach emotionally to these characters while building the arc. It's perfect storytelling.
Yeah. You see, here he's building his clock castle.
Yes.
I mean, the imagery alone and the symbolism that they have going on in here is just amazing. All the callbacks that they have further on in the book to what happened in the beginning kind of amazes you when you pick up on it. It's just a phenomenal read. from start to finish. It was hard for me to put it down one night. I finished it in 2 nights, and I was very upset I had to put it down. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much. I mean, if you're reading the Tales of the Black Freighter stuff and you're reading the dossiers on everybody and you're reading the autobiography, I mean, you got a lot of reading going on.
There's a lot of data in there. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, then you get a lot from Hollis Mason's novel. Spreads are out there. It does. It takes a minute to get through. It's not a casual sit down comic.
No. My kids found it in the children's section of the library. And I walked up there and I was like, ma'am. And she's like, yeah. Well, she looks at my daughter. She's like, you want the comic book? I said, this is not what you think it is. I'll check it out. However, it does not belong in the children's section. And I opened it up to the rape scene and she goes, oh dear. I'm like, yeah. Let's not.
Oh, dear's right.
Well, I guess in the modern era, it could be in this children's section.
Yeah,
I think I've read it 3 times.
So who is your favorite character, if you have a favorite character?
Well, my favorite character is definitely Rorschach, just because he is an immovable object when it comes to justice.
That's mine too. Yeah, Rorschach's the best.
This is really, when it boils down to it, this is really his tale.
That guy with the little girl, that just became a mom.
Yeah.
I agree. This is Rorschach's story, and I think the more time that has passed, that's kind of become the consensus. I am thinking because
I mean he's our detective in this noir, trying to figure out what the mystery is.
I was telling my son about this stream, the one who's joining the Navy.
Hey, Stephen.
And when I told him, it's groundbreaking comics or comics we feel are groundbreaking for us, and he was like, oh man, well, Watchmen's on the list. And he said, you know what, I hazard to say Doomsday Clock as well, because they did it's like that was like New 52 is so bad. Like, how do we fix this? Dr. Manhattan.
They had to go outside of their usual universe to fix the New 52.
Yeah.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah.
Lord.
I have one of the Doomsday Clocks over there.
Oh, yeah, I have that. I have that as well. I actually, because I didn't have a lot from the New 52 era because I didn't like the New 52 era. So when I saw the news about Doomsday Clock coming out, I was like, oh,
interesting.
This is good.
I feel like the New 52 comics might actually be worth money someday, since nobody gives a shit.
That's a good point.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's a smart investment because
fair.
Well, now everyone's going to steal my idea. Now it'll be wrong.
Those are at garage sales right now. So,
well, every year more than get landfilled, So there you go.
Returned back to DC.
By the way, this is the most unsexual sex scene ever.
Oh, that poor guy. That poor
Dan
guy.
is not in shape in this.
No.
Because what's his name who portrayed him in the movie?
Patrick Wilson.
Oh, Patrick Wilson.
Yeah.
He wasn't really out of shape. He's not what you think of as a muscular dude, but he's not fat. He's fat.
No, Dan here's got a dad bod.
Yes.
Ain't nothing wrong with the dad bod.
What's funny is, even as a guy, I still don't want to see a dad bod in my hot sex scene.
You know what? Comics are for girls too, okay? Comics are for the ladies too. That's why you have your token lady here tonight.
And we are thankful to have you. Thank you for the ratings. So I think the prison scene is actually one of my just kind of the whole Rorschach in jail scene.
Oh yeah.
That's the pinnacle of this.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I love this stuff.
Rorschach is indomitable. He is like, the situation doesn't matter to him. He doesn't. Yeah, the world bends around him, not the other way around.
Well, exactly. He's a metal post, right? I mean,
yeah.
he doesn't.
But that was the point of the character, was the world bends around him, but it doesn't really bend around him. It'll eventually break him.
It does.
Right.
It does, but in
Yeah,
a weird kind of way. He's almost the counterpart to Dr. Manhattan, whereas Dr. Manhattan can actually change reality. Rorschach won't let reality change him.
Right.
Ooh,
Right.
wow.
Well, I think that's why the
deep
line. I think
thoughts.
that's why the lines of him saying to everybody, "I think you got it all wrong. I'm not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with
Here
me."
we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
That line really sticks.
Yeah, because what Rorschach is talking about is his experience on the street.
Mhm.
You know, he's
Yeah.
already living in a crazy, sinful prison in the first place. At least now, in an actual prison, he
Yeah.
knows that they're all bad guys.
He doesn't
Oh,
have
yeah.
to
He
worry
knows
about
where
his
he
target.
stands.
You know what? That is an excellent point, Stephen. There's no ambiguity about who
Yeah.
he's with.
Yeah.
What's that one?
Well, half the guys that's in there he
Yes.
put away, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's
Was
like
You
it
got a
Little
jail
finger?
full of guys out here who hate your guts.
Yeah.
What the hell have you got? Your hands.
You're
My
right.
perspective.
I love who
And-
they picked to play Rorschach in
Yes.
the film.
oh, he was great.
Exactly,
He did a really good
exactly how I
job.
pictured him.
He nailed it. It's
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Imagine if they made that movie today instead of when they did.
Yeah,
Oh,
Jackie,
we're not
Jackie
talking
Earl.
about that tonight.
Well, we know we would.
Yeah.
The abominable TV show was what
Yeah, Jackie
Oh,
Earl
I-
Haley was a perfect casting call.
Yeah, and it's quite honestly an unexpected one, but it was
Yeah.
perfect. You know, it's one of those things. You don't. That's not who you have. I don't even know who I had in my head. I don't know if I had anybody in my head for Rorschach, but yeah, he was perfect. In fact, I can't think of bad casting
No.
in that movie. The movie was a very, and I know some people have issues with it. I myself don't. I understand why they had to change the ending because the big monster stuff at the end wouldn't necessarily translate well.
Yeah.
And the idea of Dr. Manhattan causing the explosions is actually a lot more digestible in a theater style
That-
environment.
Yeah, and I was
ending
gonna
is a-
say it makes it more relatable for the
Yeah.
normies.
It does. The ending
Yes,
is a minor
right.
nitpick to complain and say the movie's
Really?
not good.
No.
Yeah.
But the rest of it was damn near, panel for
good.
panel to
I-
the screen.
Yes. I think
I
that
think
it's the movie's a textbook example of how a good adaptation should be done.
Exactly.
Definitely.
You know, I was what I was saying is with Zack Snyder, this is the film he did right after 300. And I mean,
Yep.
what all he did was he took these panels and used them as storyboards. And he
Well, I
adapted
mean,
them so
It's
well.
the hard work's done for you.
It's a
Exactly.
comic book. They've
Yeah.
literally storyboarded it for you.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
morons.
Why
That's
would
what
you
I
need
keep
to
saying. When you
storyboard
adapt a
storyboard?
comic
Makes
book,
no sense.
you don't even have to hire an artist. You already got your storyboard.
Yeah,
Exactly.
these panels should be posted
and
in the
yet-
writing room.
Like,
Right.
Pete, please pay the
This-
GD comic artists when you totally just recreate the scene
Absolutely.
on screen. Holy shit. Come on, pay
David
them.
Gibbons and whoever drew 300 should have got paid again because that's all they
Oh,
did
yeah.
was just
That
use their
scene
panels.
from 300 was
Storyboarded,
just the
yeah.
panel that when they're pushing them over the cliff and stuff. And
Oh,
the
yeah.
silhouette.
Oh yeah.
It was
Glorious, just
Yeah,
glorious.
I think that's the reason why why Frank Miller was brought in for the film Sin City and received a director's notation
Good.
because
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's he did a panel for panel breakdown and
Right.
Robert Rodriguez openly admits it's like it was barely a difficult job to film the
Right.
damn movie. I got every single scene I need all written out.
All he's
Frank
got to
did
do
all
is
the
put
work.
motion. All he's got to do is put motion to the picture.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah,
And
I
not all
don't
the
think
pictures.
Frank was left wanting. He was definitely given some capital for sure between his work on 300, the Dark Knight series, and his work in the Sin City franchise. I am sure that there was some good amounts of money exchanged between those fellas. So
We won't talk about the spirit.
right.
What's the spirit? I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know the spirit.
Exactly.
Good
You're
grief.
But yet the same Zack Schneider who gave us the 300, who gave us Watchmen, gave us Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, that's what blows my mind. Is that
I don't put
him,
that on him. I don't put that on him at all.
Well,
Right?
No, you're right. I mean,
I'll
the
put that
studio,
on him.
the studio.
I put it on him.
The
because
studio.
of
The
what-
studio.
No, I put it on him because he went all with that Grindar crap. You know, I mean,
Which
that's not Superman. I mean, I don't care what you say about Batman. Batman could be dark, That's even Henry Cavill kind of admitted when he almost came back. He's, I'm not going to do that anymore. I want to play Superman like Christopher Reeve type Superman.
Yeah.
And you can't. You can do a dark story with Superman. I can name quite a few of them, but you can't have his main line be that dark. It just doesn't work for the character.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
Zack Snyder lost the bubble when he did Sucker Punch. When he did
Sucker Punch sucked.
Yeah.
But see,
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
So
It had potential.
I did not. Oh,
Zack
It had
Snyder
so
wasn't
much
supposed
potential.
to do the DCEU. Okay, so people understand. I'll do it briefly. The whole when they were putting together Cavill's Superman film, Christopher Nolan's team was supposed to do the DCEU. Okay,
Right.
Snyder was going to do Man of Steel, under Nolan's supervision, so to speak. Then something happened when they were filming the third Batman film when Nolan and Christian Bale both wanted out, and that's why they changed the ending to where they can't really come back with Batman anymore, or whatever. And Nolan just bailed, but his team remained with Snyder to do the DCEU basically, except for Nolan and his brother, right? So and Snyder's influence of doing very, very dark materials. So there was no one to say, "Wait a minute, buddy," just and that's we got.
Because you saw what he did. He took bits of things and inserted them into that movie. You got bits of the Dark Knight Returns. You got bits of the death of Superman, and he compressed all this bullshit. In the Navy, the term is 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound sock. That's what that movie was. And Justice League was just unrecoverable at that point. And I know you have
that wasn't even fair.
I don't mind the 17-hour adaptation that they fixed. But it does. But
my thought was
still,
that
Like,
with
please
that
tell
one,
me
it
you're
was
talking about
just a regular
Snyder's
shit
and not
movie.
Justice League, right?
Well, it was like
that
he
movie
had
different?
Joss Whedon took over and he had diarrhea, and that's what Justice League came out. And then Zack Snyder came back and said, "No, dude, this is how you do it." And he had a regular shit.
No,
Either
Zack
one was
Snyder came
bad.
back and said, "You worked harder, not smarter. I had
Right.
80% of the filming done, you jackass. Why would you
Right,
do more work?"
Right.
Just-
Well, they made him change it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Execs did not
No,
want
they
that ultra
did
dark
because
movie.
that was a lot of bad studio influence. Just really on everything post Watchmen. I don't know why. I mean, Watchmen, I know it wasn't a big commercial success, but the fans generally, people like us, enjoyed the movie. Like I said, there's those little nitpicky parts about it, but it's an extraordinary production. And we're just circling back to the book itself. The final message that we get is a painful lesson in pragmatism.
Yeah.
Ozymandias did exactly what he wanted to do. He caused a crisis that made the world leaders have to work together. And if you expose that he did it, then that unravels. It was genius and horrible all at the same time. And that's ultimately where, what Rorschach can't tolerate. Because he's going to go talk because he is good and bad, for at all costs. And he pays for it.
Well, he just realizes that he obviously understands that all the innocent life lost just to make this happen is not something that's good.
Well,
Therefore,
that's bad.
that he'll never get his it'll never be told, it'll never, no one's ever going to know that this was all just a game. It was a ploy.
Right.
And they've lost free
Right.
will. They've lost free will because of all this.
And of course, now that we live in a post 9/11 world, we realize that coming together only lasts for so long.
Yep.
As long as it's fun and looks good on TV.
That's a good point. His entire plan is meaningless because in 10 years it's back to normal.
Back to where
Yeah.
it was.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all of that horror that he did is pointless.
Exactly.
Well, in the long term,
Yeah.
sure.
Well, in
If
our
there was that
terms,
line from
what
Fight
matters.
Club, where
Well,
on a
no,
long
it-
enough timeline, everybody's survival rate drops to 0. In all fairness, I wanted to mention that I tried doing some deep research to see who came up with the idea first, But there's a very strange coincidence at the end of this book when it was actually published in real time, like back in the 80s,
85.
where Ronald Reagan says to the United Nations, we could all work together if there was an alien attack. And then Watchmen happens quite literally within a month. The president says this at the United Nations, and this book hits the shelves. So
Well,
did the
you-
book somehow
you're-
wind up in front of Reagan? Did Reagan know about this?
No,
Was
I
this a
don't think so.
paradigm that everybody was working
Or-
on?
I think it was an idea that was just in the
Yeah,
ether.
that's an old
Or-
idea.
Yeah.
The only thing that'll bring humanity together is us being on the same side, and that the only time that could happen if there's like an alien attack.
Yeah,
you
that
know?
goes back like
Mhm.
decades and decades to
Yeah,
science fiction.
Indeed.
See-
I only bring it up specifically because it's a strange coincidence that the two events happen simultaneously, and that Alan Moore is such a steamy guru, Masonic kind of crazy weird guy in
He's
the
so weird.
background.
I love him.
He is a weird dude.
He's
He is a
so
weird
weird.
dude. He also hated the Watchmen television series, which is not unexpected.
Well, he hated
it's
Alan
not-
Moore had anything to do with any of his works that he didn't do.
Oh,
Fair.
Yeah, the book From Hell is a perfect example of how to screw up an Alan Moore piece by making a 2-hour feature film out of a 6-book run.
It's awful.
that was the Johnny Depp Jack the Ripper
Yeah.
film, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't
Very
Yeah.
bad casting. He shouldn't have been that
with Heather
handsome.
Graham from Hell. Yeah, from
Yeah.
Hell.
Yep.
Yeah, you said
And that
the
wa-
word, and I'm like,
That was
"Why
the
did
Hughes
I
brothers.
think that?"
They bounced back with Book of Eli, which was excellent.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
that's
Book of
really
Eli
good.
was
Oh,
really
yeah.
good.
Loved it.
Good
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
Johnny
Good.
Depp fan. I'll watch any movie he's in. He's
Oh,
like
for sure.
so.
Yeah. Hey, once again, not his fault. Just like it's not Joss Whedon's fault. Just like it's not Chris Nolan's fault. I'd say that the W brothers, they're the problem. Okay, these guys have had possession of the DC IP forever.
Yeah.
And they have just mashed up their live action intrigue. Their animated forefront has been perfect across the board. Legendary animated series all across the board, all the properties, they all work. How they can't do this with live action boggles
We
my
know.
Yeah,
mind.
me.
Well,
I
I
The
think
guy
it's
that got, the
really
guy that got
important.
fired.
I
The
think
think
what-
what
it's
Warner
really
Brothers-
important to
what
say
Warner
to
Brothers
Copa's
saw-
wife, thank you.
Oh.
Follow my
Shit.
channel. I'll show you more.
Oh, okay. What were we talking about?
But
I
that
was
guy-
thinking,
there
Ah,
was-
okay.
Yeah.
there was-
So,
came
but
back
I
to
think with
Superman, that
I
guy
think
got
with Warner
fired. That's the
Brothers,
guy.
their problem is that they saw what Marvel was doing, and then they
Yeah.
went, "We got to do that
Yeah.
too."
but
Instead of
let's
we
doing
need
our
to
change
do
the
it this fast.
rules.
Yeah.
Let's beat them at their own game, but change the rules.
Yeah.
It
Well, it's a
doesn't work
it's a
that way.
Right.
copycat industry sometimes, and instead of sitting there playing, it's sort of like when the Bourne series came out. The Barbara Broccoli with James Bond said we have to do the Bourne identity for James Bond, or we're never going to be able to compete. And that's when they did the Daniel Craig Bonds. So it's kind of
Oh,
a
that's
copycat.
based on?
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
The
actually,
style change was based on that.
The style
That
changed
was-
just because of Bourne Identity and how
Daniel
well it
Craig
was done.
hated it, by the way. He hated playing Bond that way.
I've actually
Oh.
got a stream coming up where we talk about all the multiple times DC and Marvel. Just like, you know what? I like that idea. I'm gonna take it.
You can have it. It's free.
Yeah.
It's a
That
pity,
was me being DC. You can have it. I don't know what I'm doing.
Nobody owns it. The guy who created it, or says he created it, said it was okay.
Right. But and I think that was WB's problem. I think if they went a different route, they would have created a competition that would have given audiences something different to watch. Maybe not in the short term would they have competed with Marvel, because Marvel obviously had this thing building towards Infinity War and Endgame. So everybody was kind of keeping an eye on that. But as soon as Endgame ended, I mean, when I walked out at
That was it.
Endgame, I turned to my wife and
That
I
was
said,
great.
"That's it.
That's it, yeah.
I'm done with Marvel. Like,
Yep.
what else is there going to be that tops this?"
And
I was
kind of
kinda
wish they
right.
had left it there.
Duh.
And so yeah, I think DC, if they kept going the way they were with the Nolan stuff, and then just waited for Endgame to do its thing,
Yep.
they would have been the one on top right now.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah,
or
one would have expected a lot more confidence from such a gigantic studio with such a huge track
Right.
record.
Right.
I mean, they did the Harry Potter series almost word for word. It was like
Yeah.
right on the money. They
Oh,
did
really?
Lord of the Rings for crying out
I
loud.
completely
Huh.
100%
On-
agree with you. And I constantly tell people when they ask me, are you DC or are you Marvel? That's comparing apples to oranges. They're two
Right.
totally different
That's
things.
fair.
So
Right.
why on earth would DC
Right.
sit and think
To-
that they have to do the same shit
Well-
to make
Well,
money?
I was telling everyone else, it's like, well, everyone's saying, well, man, the Avengers this, the Avengers that. I was like, the Avengers was the C team. It's like you expect
Yeah.
the Fantastic Four to handle it or the
Mhm.
X-Men.
Mhm.
Avengers is right after that. So it's like they made billions of dollars off of the C team. So if WB is looking at it, it's like, well, that's the C team. Who's our C team? We've got. Wait, I could do Justice
the Avengers-
Society.
The Avengers
Yeah,
they put
yeah.
together was not the C Team Avengers though. Those,
No, I'm not saying the C
yeah.
team Avengers. I'm just saying in terms of like who handles the threat. You're
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Fantastic Four will take
And
care
in
of this.
sales. And in sales.
Yeah.
Sales.
Yeah. So yeah, you're looking at that. You're like, those the T. It's like, well, so our A team that we have is technically the C team of all the other teams. So if it's DC, it's like, well, hey, I'm just gonna put the Justice Society of America. They're all pretty much what we're looking for. More grounded superheroes. You've got
Mhm.
Jay Garrick's Flash. You got whatchamacallit, Midnighter, Hour Man. If you wanted to do Wonder Woman, you could do that too. You got Alan Scott for your Green Lantern. You
They
could even
ruined that
do
character.
you said what?
You know what they
They
should
ruined
do?
Alan Scott. Ruined him completely.
Yeah, that was awful. That was terrible. But I mean, even I was okay with even when
This
they
is
did the
what they
race
should
swap.
do.
What you got?
Left Eye. This is
Yeah, let
this
me
is
blow
what
you
they
up.
should have done.
What that one? Is this the movie? Is that the movie they made?
They made an
New
animated
New
movie.
They made
Frontier?
an animated feature of New Frontier.
Yeah.
It's the book, but
Yeah.
this is what they should have done.
Adding to Amazon cards.
What are you guys?
now.
It's
lost in the
fantastic. And
details.
honestly, if we're gonna let's just say this is my second pick. Since
wanna go with it?
Copa
Roll.
took
You
Watchmen.
go, girl. Go. Let me.
You go, girl, me. That
I
So
did, and it
90s
wasn't comfortable when I
Roman.
said it, and
Hey,
I
Danny,
regret
he's
my
a sailor.
actions.
He's been on
And-
board ship for far too long. Okay, he's in the mess hall. He
True.
considers jail to be a
true.
brig.
I was a grunt wife. I got to stay home and spend money.
Mess hall.
yeah, we don't have that.
I wasn't allowed
That's-
money.
It's a
Let me-
galley.
Hey, Danny,
Okay.
is that an Elseworlds book or is that a standard book? I'm asking questions. I have to look for it under the right
I
title.
don't think it's Elseworlds. It's Darren Cook and Dave Stewart. I have 2 copies of this.
Is it new? I'm sorry, New Frontier, right? New Frontier.
Yes.
Yeah.
DC
Is
Frontier.
it Justice
DC
League New Frontier or is it?
It's just
It's
DC,
just
the
New
New
Frontier.
Frontier.
It's
Okay.
just New Frontier. And it's a beautiful, beautiful book. The artwork is very I
It's a
wanna say
mini
looks
series.
50s.
Yeah, it looks
Very
very Dave
50s.
Sim.
Yeah. Oh, there was a picture. I apparently was reading it and left a picture in there. But the artwork is very 50s, very 60s.
I'll blow you up while I'm trying to find the damn thing.
Okay. It's
It's
very
from,
post World War II Comics Code Authority artwork.
It's an Elseworld.
Oh, yeah.
It's from
It-
before, like I don't know, between 1998
Hey, I found it. Look at me.
and 2005.
dig it.
somewhere
I
in
may
there.
have found it.
A beautiful
It
book.
also told me I found Black Mirror, but I did not.
And this is also my favorite incarnation of Wonder Woman because
Okay.
Darren actually made sure, and I'm trying to find the right shot of her, but there is a scene when so she goes and she saves all these Vietnamese women from the Viet Cong. They had these women in cages. And she goes and disarms all the men, lets the women out of the cages, and just happens to show them, here it is, where the weapons are lying. And when Superman comes in and she's like getting crunk with her her big goblet up here, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And she tells him, "Oh, that's what I did. They were keeping them in cages like pets. So I just let him out, showed him where the guns were, and she gets off the table and stands up next to him. And look at that. She towers over Superman. Why?
I like it.
Because she's a
She's an
freaking Amazon
Amazon.
and she's supposed to. So
Right.
this
You go, girl. Yes, queen.
Slay.
are you doing that
Slay.
because I'm a girl? God.
Yeah, Copa.
Anyway, don't
That sounded like
tokenize
a Copa
me,
statement.
okay?
Bringing back Go Girl. That's right. We
Anyway.
did it here on Roman of the Empire, bringing back bad phrases from the
Yes,
90s.
queen.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to load
Yes,
it. It's
queen.
not loading in. It's really
But
killing me.
the art in that is so good, though.
Isn't
I-
it? It's
it
amazing.
is.
And
It's
The
not
classic
just
stuff, right?
it's
Yeah.
not just the art. In the art, when they did the animated film, they stayed true to that artwork, but everything is done the way they were initially intended to. Batman is dark. He's violent. Wonder Woman is a warrior. She's a thousands trained warrior, and she takes no shit. It just makes so much sense. And there's this deep evil inside of the earth, and they all have to come together. Even the losers are in this. It's amazing. It actually starts off with the story of the losers
Oh,
being
yeah.
trapped on Monster Island. It's a
Alright.
great book. It's a great
Wow.
read. To me, it's groundbreaking because it's the best incarnation of the Justice League, because it's each of those single characters at their absolute best, the way that their creators intended them to be. It's
Well,
phenomenal.
Justice
Martian
Society.
Manhunter is God, I can't say enough good things about this book. I've read it 3 or 4 times.
Just looking at the artwork here, it kind of reminds
Isn't
me of
it
like a
phenomenal?
throwback to the 60s.
That's what I was saying. It's
Okay.
very Silver Age,
Yeah.
where it's a Silver Age
Actually.
style without the crazy wonky what the f- is happening Silver Age storytelling.
Right.
It's a
Still
throwback
very
Except for the
detailed, too.
dinosaur.
This
So
was
no
really
giant
fun.
pennies.
There's all
So,
kinds of dinosaurs and monsters.
If you look at Superman's outfit, it's the Fleischer Superman outfit.
Nice.
I never forget the mayo or the mustard, Gianna. Never. I make great sandwiches.
I don't know what just happened. Somehow we got on dietary things. I must have missed something. It's
She
'cause I'm
asked me if
scrolling-
I could make a sandwich.
And it's all
I'm
because I
sorry.
said
Oh.
sub away. So I think somebody ran with the sub concept.
I'm
And
gonna need another beer. I'm already on number 3, so that's 4
Let me
beers.
try to
in.
scroll down to find some.
Someone
of
bring
the,
mommy a beer.
wow.
Mommy
That's
needs
right.
Medicine.
That's right. Now,
Oh, here we go. Here's
bring a case.
Edwards Air Force Base, 1948.
Yeah, they really throw it back with this
There
art.
he is.
Where is they're at that bar, right? That's a
Yeah.
real place. That's a real place at that
Yeah.
time
Really?
that existed. Yeah. It
Wow.
burned down in the 50s, but it was where all the people that were in the program for the fast, sound barrier test flights, all that, they
Oh,
all
yeah.
went there and hung out. And there's a lot of stories that go into that.
Yeah, I think
if you,
that,
like,
that
know Air Force
location
history.
was celebrated in the right stuff.
Yeah, I was
right?
about to say
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
I was about to say that's the bar that they always hang out in the right stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And
Where,
So that's
where Chuck
accurate.
Yeager is always in.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the actual place burned down in the 50s, so it doesn't exist anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
What a
Mm.
tremendous
why didn't
loss.
tell us about it? Why'd you get our
Well,
hopes up?
Oh,
History.
because
Just
yeah,
a
because I
little-
know about it.
That's right. This is YouTube after all, for crying out
Well,
loud. I preach about what I know.
It's not that. I mean, being in the Air Force for so long, I learned about all that stuff.
Oh, see, you
Oh,
picked
here he
the
is.
right branch, the good money.
Yeah,
Good
they had the nice
housing.
stuff. We didn't have the nice
I mean,
stuff.
look at that. It's just
This is really cool. Martian Manhunter
see what I mean? Look at that.
origin stuff.
That's really nice. Wow.
She even opened it for me.
Wait, that's Groot.
Not that
I
Martian
thought it was like Swamp Thing's cousin also.
Yo.
Oh, look, they're making out. It's Superman and Wonder Woman making out.
Yeah, see, look at her face, like her makeup, and
Isn't
I
it
guess
perfect?
it is. It's just, it looks really good. Yeah, look at Superman.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, look at that, Superman. Get in there, bro.
That's right.
He's gonna get me too'd.
She got those, you see, she had those
Not in
fingers
this
wrapped around his
universe.
collar. She was
Didn't
ready for it.
exist.
Oh, here's that where you were in the
Yes,
scene you were talking
yes,
about.
yes.
She's in
Look
there
at
hooting
her.
it up. He's
Oh,
using
is that his X-ray
eyes to look,
vision?
and he's
Yeah.
peeping like a weirdo.
Yep.
And
She's like,
What
come
are
on in, Cal. And they picked Lucy Lawless to do her voice. Dream casting.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Left Eye, we became friends. You see how that
I mean,
happened?
look at
Oh, yeah.
how. Yeah, look at that.
It's beautiful. It's perfect. And she's like,
She can fly in this.
that's a
one?
great.
Yeah.
I love that panel.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
'cause
when she's
nice.
telling in the animated film, when she's reciting all this dialogue, Lucy Lawless does it
Great.
perfect. She's like, so
Yeah.
I just showed him the clearing where the guns were.
Perfect.
Hey,
Yeah,
I want to
was-
thank I want to
Yeah,
thank
go
two artists for this style coming back, and that's Frank Miller with his blotted
Uh-huh.
out silhouette shots, like that shot of Wonder Woman is almost right out of the Dark Knight. It's so perfect. And I prefer Wonder Woman in the Centurion skirt. I
Yes, I do
love
too.
that
Yes,
kilt design.
yes.
It
It's
makes so
fantastic.
much more
I
sense.
like that too.
Yeah,
she's a
because
Greek
it's
warrior,
Greek. Right.
Thank you. Thank
Right.
you. I'm
Yep.
amongst my people.
Yes,
I
you are.
honestly think that's where they got the idea for Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. They're just like, make her Xena
Oh.
Warrior Princess and call her Wonder Woman. Like,
Yeah,
I was
well,
like,
that's what Xena Warrior Princess did. They just called it Xena.
So this
Yeah.
panel right here that you're just scrolling past, go back up
Yep.
to it. This is Martian Manhunter after he's come to Earth and accidentally kills that scientist. He's out on his own. And so he figures out, he learns about Earth and humans by watching TV, and he learns how to shift into them by, shifting it to Groucho Marx and Bugs Bunny and the Native American from the, no broadcast at this time.
Right.
He did. My brain. Anyway.
So
Awkward.
I guess we could
Settles on.
speculate that he was watching Casablanca when he did the Turkish guy.
Yes.
No, that was
Groucho Marx.
Groucho Marx.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Groucho Marx.
Oh, is it
You know what
Groucho
I'm
Marx?
talking about? Eh?
Yeah.
Groucho Marx never wore a fez.
Okay.
He might have
I don't
been
know. I
watching
wasn't
Doctor
there.
Who. I don't know. Okay? I wasn't there.
Okay.
That's
Could
not
you,
a
do,
in at
you,
least one of the movies.
do you think if they made a Martian Manhunter movie based on something like this, that would work? And would you watch it? Or would it be like
Only-
watching E.T. again as an adult?
I hated E.T. so much. I hated that little gray bastard.
You just
I was
triggered
happy
him.
when
You
he
just
died.
triggered him.
With his extra long sausage
Oh my
fingers,
God.
creepy
Hey,
little
you know,
alien.
I
Anytime
wanted
forget
to
that
make
you're
a point
bit
about
older
what you
than
just
me,
said there.
you remind
Ego.
me in the worst way.
I think that
Um,
there's an issue with timing, and because you mentioned
Okay.
E.T. in regard to Martian Manhunter,
Yeah.
I experienced the same thing when I went
I'll
to
be
go
right back,
see
guys.
John Carter of Mars. It was like everybody's criticism was this is a ripoff of something that actually had ripped
don't
him
think-
off.
I don't think that was everybody's criticism of that.
Well, no,
that
the movie was crappy. I mean,
movie.
Well,
This
it was
was
just that the IP had been trumped by newer IPs that had taken all of its guts away. So we didn't see it as a new idea. It was seen as an old idea that didn't make any sense to a modern audience. And I think that that's an issue that Martian Manhunter might have because of E.T., because of the movie Alien, because of several other
See,
Alien properties.
this is why you don't make billion-dollar movie, like spend $1 billion to make a Martian Manhunter. This is why you get maybe 200 million, make a niche film, and if it goes viral and makes 700 million, you got something. You know, but
Right,
you don't
exactly.
overdo
That's
your
what they did
budget.
with Blade. That's why Blade with Wesley
Yeah.
Snipes worked
Yeah.
so well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blade was like still one of the best Marvel movies, and it
It
that's
only
still
what
did-
they
holds up.
Agreed.
All
Yeah.
those
Agreed.
first Marvel movies were all low-budget films.
Yeah,
You know,
that Blade
yeah.
was only probably I want to say 35 million.
Yeah, probably.
That's
to
so
make.
sad that that's considered low budget.
Right.
But
Compared
that's
to
why it's a
Terminator
good
2, which
thing.
was like what, a couple $100 million to make at the time. Ever similar
Yeah.
time. I mean,
But
Blade
that's
was
that's
such
why
a
it's a
good
good
movie,
thing that
too.
James Gunn is in charge of DC Studios now, because he started off with Troma Studios, which was a low budget studio.
I-
Toxic Avenger, anyone?
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, I have lost faith in Gunn. Just
Like when
I
I
give-
when I
I would
saw
give Gunn a
Blade,
shot. I give
So, I
Gunn a
mean,
shot because he hasn't come out with anything yet.
Well, I don't know. I
Exactly.
mean, do you know
This
how
is
he's
what we
gonna?
talked about last time. He hasn't come out with anything yet. Give
Well,
him
he's
a
not coming out
chance.
with Henry Cavill as Superman, and that's a
Because
game breaker for
can't
him.
afford him. I keep telling you, Warner Brothers is broke, and the only reason why they said,
Yeah.
"Hey, Henry, come on back," is because they knew within the next 24 hours someone else was going to have to
No.
clean up their mess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, y'all do you have faith in him now that he's saying that he might want to? He's definitely going to try to bring in people from Guardians of the Galaxy to be DC
Chris
characters.
Pratt is a great actor at what he does. I have no problems with that. I have no problems as far as it comes with MCU Guardians of the Galaxy actors coming over to DC. I have no problems with that. What I have problems with is writing and studio interference or production company interference.
Yeah.
That's what I have a problem with. It's not so much the actors. They're doing their jobs. They're doing
And
what they're told.
if I could offer up a speculation,
Absolutely.
to Warner Brothers, there's a major multiverse issue that's going on with the DC and Marvel universe. But Marvel aside, just speaking about Warner Brothers and DC, wouldn't it be a genius idea if they telegraphed their new movies and their old catalog by just putting a universe number under the title? Like, have it as a micro subtext. Like, this is the Batman movie with Twinkle Boy, and it's from this universe.
You have no idea how
and
much
that's
I
it. No
appreciated that
audience
comment.
interference, no concern. Anybody who wants to do the research, they just look at that Batman universe and they're like, "Oh, this is a great adaptation of that universe."
I totally agree, because with this new Batman that has come out, everybody thinks that this Batman with Robert Pattinson is going to go head to head with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and they're going to have the normies are going to have a rude awakening when that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
because it's not
going to happen.
It's not.
Yeah, I don't think Gunn is going to turn DC into a constant Guardians of the Galaxy. None at all. He's a fan. He's a really big fan. He's actually a big fan of Bill Finger Batman. So
personally, I don't see why James Gunn is so damn special, but he better produce something really good. And the first one off the bat has to be either Batman or Superman. And if he doesn't produce one of those two, he's going to be in a world of pain.
He's starting with Superman. He's starting with Superman. And first and foremost, I have to say, he's from the same neighborhood I am. I have to root for him on some level.
Superman?
Where no, James Gunn. No, kids from St. Louis. But
my thought is,
he hasn't come out with anything yet, but he's got big plans for Superman. He's really good at writing. He's really good at directing. I've got a lot of hope for him. And until he shows me something that I'm like, okay, then I have to just at least have hope.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If I could interest you in him bringing on Chris Pratt to play Booster Gold, every version of the terrible universe, and just say, hey, all this is separate. We're gonna do it through Chris Pratt, so it's gonna be very funny. We're gonna have Lobo with Jason Momoa as Lobo.
Jason Momoa as Lobo is a perfect casting.
Well, I was saying Jason Momoa as Lobo meets Jason Momoa as Aquaman. He's like, like your hair. He's like, main man likes your hair too. And that's
hey, you smell like patchouli.
I was I bet he stinks. I really do. I bet Jason Momoa smells bad.
You know he smells like weed and patchouli.
B.O. But no, I was just saying the other day that he's got to bring Booster Gold in. We have to. Is it too much to ask for a Booster Gold show?
No.
Left Eye, we're going to talk, man, because you got some ideas and I like them.
See, the problem I have with James Gunn is that he had the perfect casting as Superman at his fingertips, and he let that go.
He did.
Like just dropped it.
I would say they couldn't.
I'm telling you, it was a money issue. I'm telling you,
it can't, because Cavill is willing to work for less money on stuff he likes.
Yeah,
he took a pittance for that horrible Witcher series, and
and they were so shitty to him. I just want to go slap the writers at the Witcher. They made Henry Cavill sad, and it upsets me.
Well, I think that Henry Cavill's next move needs to be on parallel with what Gina Carano was doing. And that is, I am no longer working with these bozos. They screwed me over. They stepped on my toes. I'm done. And that's his big sale point. He can actually draw an audience that's angsty to a property just on the angst alone, just from the momentum of somebody screwed Henry. Like,
Yep.
stop
And
screwing with
he's
Henry.
so
Give the man a work,
universally
a job.
beloved.
Henry and his wife have,
Yeah.
because she has a production company, they have the Warhammer 40K rights, and they're doing
Yeah.
Warhammer
Yep.
40K.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's doing
I
Warhammer.
really hope that comes
And
through.
he
A
loves
lot of people are
Warhammer.
going to be very pissed
Oh
off. if
yeah,
that
I'm
gets
really
dropped.
excited about him doing the Warhammer. I was like, I put on my Facebook page for the channel. I was like, look, dreams do come true. I'm so happy for Henry. That's his big nerd thing is Warhammer, and he gets to do that
Well, he's
show.
just
Like,
he's just a big nerd all around, and
He
he really
is.
cares about
Yes.
whatever character
Yes.
he's attached to.
and I would think that he's very attractive if he didn't look so much like my brother. So
I will say
That's
this.
awkward for all of us.
Say
now.
whatever
It's
I
Steve
used to
did-
think,
awkward.
is that Danny's brother or?
I know, but my brother's a huge tool, so it can't be my brother.
Oh, okay.
My brother's that dude that walks in and tries to impress you with, dude, I smoke so much weed.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
Oh yeah, we all
Oh,
know that
God.
guy.
Yeah.
Dude, like, buy Adele, dude.
He is. And only-
Adele.
he is the
Look at my
biggest
new
star.
power.
I gotta respond to this. Canoli Sasquatch. Cavill is the biggest star of the last 10 years or so. Add up all the money the movies he has made. There's no one even close to it.
Billions.
Oh,
When you
I
add
think
all the-
I think with Cavill and what Canoli is saying is that the dude has just been screwed over
Yeah.
from IP to IP.
Yeah.
Like wherever he's been going, he's been screwed. Like
Yeah.
whether it's been from the head writers, from James Gunn, canceling right underneath his feet, to Warner Brothers in general doing him a little dirty. He seems like the guy who has all this star power, all this momentum behind him, but there's outside forces that keep stopping him from being his full potential.
Well, he was a great villain in Mission Impossible. Was it Fallout?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Fallout.
To that point that I will say,
Six.
if they ever did a reboot of Terminator with an evil Terminator, Cavill as the Terminator.
Yeah, he'd be dope for sure.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
Dave, my boyfriend, we refer to him as either Shmoo or off-screen producer Dave. You saw him briefly. He's a huge Bond fan. He was not happy with the last Bond film. In fact, he got up from the couch and then walked away. It's like,
Oh dear.
I still haven't
Hey,
finished it.
Daniel's gonna have to
I
go
ain't finishing
pretty
that.
soon. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Daniel. I just saw
That's
that.
okay.
Daniel, before you take off, what book do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I can present real quick.
Yes, please.
So I've got, oh geez, I don't have multiple screens, so this is gonna be all stupid.
Just
but-
throw it at me, big guy.
Yeah, so I'll just share my whole screen here. So, all right, do you guys see
I'm
my?
bringing you on now?
So I was going to talk about Amazing Spider-Man 299, which was my favorite entry into Spider-Man because I loved Spider-Man and I loved Todd McFarlane's artwork. And this was the entry of the first entrance of Venom. And I just remember this comic so well because I love this with Chance. And I just remember this thing forever. But I'm not going to talk about Spider-Man, even though he's my number one favorite comic book superhero. I love Peter Parker. Instead, I thought I'd talk about Mason Ikoku, which is another one of my favorites. And I figured this kind of thing wouldn't get talked about, but this is a manga, and it's the work of Rumiko Takahashi, who is Japan's greatest comic book writer and artist. She does the writing and the illustrations. So she writes and draws, and she's been working nonstop since 1978.
Wow.
Oh my God.
This woman is a powerhouse. She's one of the most prodigious artists and just creative people. And she worked there's hilarious stories about her. When she started out, she was working in an apartment with her assistants, sleeping in the closet. She basically turned an apartment into the studio, and she was just pumping out comics. And she is well known for some of the most famous comic books like Ranma 1/2, Inuyasha, Urusei Yatsura, which is one I talk about with Brandon, the anime guy, on his streams. But Mason Ikoku, I collected, and I actually have this entire collection. So this was the collection from Viz Media, who also did the anime. And so this is a wonderful collection, 14 volumes. And so I'll just briefly describe it. So it's basically a slice of life romantic comedy which is funny because it's like I go from Spider-Man to this, but I love this story. And this is basically what happens is this main character here is Godai, Yusaku Godai, and he is a Ronin, which is essentially someone who graduates high school but doesn't get into college. And so he is poor. That's basically his character.
He's a
poor.
townie.
Yes, he's got no goal. He's got goals. He failed to get into college. He's trying to redo entrance exams, save up money, and he's living in this really crappy house that this woman manages. He's 20 years old. She's 22. Her name is Kyoko Otanashi, and she's a widow. And she's been widowed at the very young age of 22. And she is this tragic, sweet character who's very shy and very quiet. And she is managing this house. I forget what they called it. It's the type of house that's basically very low rent and very crappy. And these other people live in this house, and you get this single mom and her kid, this woman who is like a lady of the night kind of. She's not really, but she drinks a lot. And then this guy here is this weird character who also, they all drink. All these people drink like every night. They're just drunk. And this house is a mess. Sorry. What are you going to say, Roman?
I said I'm in.
You're in. You're in. Yes,
these are my folks. These are my people.
So what happens here? This is like right away in the first volume. He gets drunk one night and he picks her up because like the alcohol is, giving him courage. And then he basically falls in love with her almost immediately. And then this entire series is this not on and off. He never is on. He's always like pining for her. And, they have all these different things happen. It's really a rom-com, but it's very adorable and sweet and funny. And you get shots like this where there'll be talking, beautiful artwork. She does this artwork, and it is this more classic, Sunday comics kind of style, but obviously more of a manga. And the way she composes the work is truly beautiful. And it's simplistic. It's the black and white. And then I thought this would be like a little funny little. And remember, you got to read right to left with Japanese manga, so like staring at her butt. And it's a very, again, I don't want to say it's dramatic. I guess it would be dramatic. There's a lot more deep, and it goes between comedy, slapstick comedy, and romantic feelings and thoughts and actions, because there's a lot of actual actions that occur, and there's a real good progression, because when you start this thing, he begins at 20 and it ends with them actually finally getting married. Spoiler alert on a very old series, but it's a very sweet and beautiful story, and a lot happens in between those things, and again, there's like true character progression. And I love this artwork. I find it just beautiful because it's so simple in the line.
Yes, the simplicity is beautiful, dude. It is.
The line work, which has always been, I like to draw, and that's always my favorite thing, is clear line work. And so you get this, and again, like the fact that she's the writer and the artist, she's like, you're really getting, which is a cool combination, because you're truly getting what she imparts, right? Because on a normal traditional comic, you have the writer telling the artist what to do, and then hoping that they can actually be in sync with one another. In this case, you're getting both. You're getting the writer and the artist.
Do you know how long it takes her to do a book?
I don't know that. I should, because I love her work, but I'm not like that level of a fan. She's quick. She's obviously quick, because she's pumped out an insane amount of work over the years. And so this was also turned into an anime. It wasn't quite completed. They were able to complete the story with like some movies, but it was pretty long running anime. But again, and it's pretty nice. But the manga is really what I love. And so this is just the main character here, and she's just this girl next door. She's this gorgeous, sweet girl next door, but she's got kind of like a little feisty, fiery side as well if you push her. So just great characters, beautiful story, and again with the manga, just beautiful artwork.
Yeah, and you know,
That's really nice, dude.
Daniel, I just wanted to back up your tribute to this series manga and this manga artist. It really roasts my biscuits when I hear people talking about how women have no place in Japan. But meanwhile, here's this woman, celebrated throughout the country for her work. And Copa, just to answer your question, I guarantee you, if you heard the actual amount of time it takes her to turn around a whole book, you would be flabbergasted. You'd be like, that's impossible. No human being could turn around a book that fast. It's crazy to even think about, but they do it. They are slaves to their own passions over there. And I have been a promoter of the Japanese artwork and creativity, unparalleled in my opinion. So thank you for bringing that up, Daniel.
Doesn't the manga artist write and draw his own books too?
No, he doesn't draw them. Well,
he doesn't draw them.
Wow.
One does. He draws the web comic version, which is very rough, but he has a separate artist for the actual manga that he works.
Understood. Okay.
So the original web comic was his work, but it's he's not an artist, and so the work is very rough, and which is fine. But yeah, I love one. One is a genius writer, and Steven, you nailed it. These manga artists and writers they're slaves to their passion. This is the perfect way you said it. And Rumiko Takahashi, I've actually used her name before to clap back on the whole women. We need more women. No, Rumiko Takahashi since 1978. 1978. Know, right? She is like the lead manga artist in Japan. She's been awarded many times. She is beloved in that country. She is a genius. She is beautiful. Her work ethic is crazy. I look up to this woman, and it just fries me when people have you
heard of Carpe Mills?
Why I said.
Well, also Sailor Moon, Nakio Takushi. She's been writing and drawing that since the 80s.
Have you guys heard of Tarpe Mills?
No.
Okay, so Tarpe Mills had one of the first superheroes ever, and she wrote and drew her creators. Her name was Miss Fury. The character's name was Miss Fury. I was pulling it up, but her name was actually June Tarpe Mills, but she didn't want anyone to know she was a woman, so she just dropped the June and was Tarpe Mills, but she wrote and drew her entire comics. But after the Comic Code Authority came out, she was one of the comics that got knocked to the curb. But they kind of stole the whole Catwoman thing from her character of Miss Fury. It was supposed to be Black Fury, but the publisher was like, that's too salacious. Take that out of there. She's running around in a skin-tight cat suit, blowing foundation in people's faces and kicking their ass.
That's awesome.
Calling her Black Fury is too much.
That sounds like my Wednesday night.
After Comic Code Authority, she was one of the many artists and writers that were they retired because what's the point? They won't let me do anything. They won't let me sell any of these books. But she was Miss Fury actually predates Wonder Woman. She's actually the first female superhero, and Tarpe Mills is the first woman comic creator and also one who drew and wrote all of her comics. She was amazing. She did amazing work. I highly recommend everyone look her up. But anyone who says that women are left out of comics clearly has no idea what they're talking about, because Tarpe Mills was a just trailblazer just for the comic community, period.
Oh yeah, that's great. I just looked her up. Miss Fury totally looks like Catwoman.
Yeah.
When people talk about
let me find one.
When people talk about over sexualization and stuff, Rumiko Takahashi in her comics, she would draw girls without a top on. She's a woman. She's drawing women without tops on.
She knows what they look like.
She knows what they look like, and she obviously thinks it's titillating and wants to do it. No, it's forcing her to do it.
You said tit.
Wow. Roman's poor stream.
I do enough damage to myself.
That's true.
Here she is. So sometimes an awful lot of damage. Let's see. Where is this? Let me find a good picture of this Ms. Fury gal.
Ms. Fury, she's fine.
Well, she's not now. See, there's a topless Miss Fury right here.
Is she?
Wait a minute.
Let's see it.
She's
Roman.
surrounded
Go
by
on.
6 dudes. This must be the wrong page. Sorry.
Miss Fury. I love the character of Miss Fury, and we'll put this as an honorable mention for groundbreaking comics because
Here, we can add this in.
Miss Fury not only utilized her, and those are the new ones. I'm
These are
talking
new,
like,
okay.
yeah, those are the brand when they brought her back.
I know they brought what? Who, I can't tell what company is this.
Dynamite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Let's see if I
I
find some
love
old-timey
Miss
ones.
Fury because men or women are different, and that's okay.
Mhm.
That's great. That's what makes us wonderful.
Mhm.
But a lot of female superheroes, it's kind of like, well, let's make them stronger and this and that. But Miss Fury played to her strengths as a woman.
Yeah,
She was
that's
more
right.
agile. She had a compact case that was filled with powder that she could blow in people's faces. She had hairnets that she could catch them with. I mean, she played to her strengths as a woman. Oh, I love paper dolls. Look at that, a Miss Fury paper doll.
Nice. Me too.
And
Big
I
fan.
loved it. She was
Yeah.
wonderful, and she didn't need no
What-
man.
I've got some weird shit here. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. What,
There was another female crime fighter around the time. Lady in Red, I think was her name. She was kind of like a Batman figure, but she was a woman. She had a red trench coat and a gun, but she still had to be home in time to make dinner for her husband.
oh, kind of
Man,
like the
that's-
Shadow or something.
That's ridiculous.
Miss Fury was single, and she was aggressive, and she boned, and she was just cool. Miss Fury was cool.
Oh, here's
Really?
this
She
must
hooked
be
up?
That's why the comics closed.
So
when
this
it
is the
That's her.
artist
That's
Wow.
Charpe.
and a cat.
Oh, and she's actually a looker too.
All right.
No,
Well,
my-
you're
that-
all welcome.
what's that in
You've
the
learned
picture with
something
her?
New today.
Is that a cat? That's a cat.
That's
Is
a
that
cat. Use the right words, fellas.
Okay.
I
I was trying to get someone to
Don't
say
go
it.
wrong so fast.
But she wasn't like super strong and all this other stuff. She was just a chick who wanted to
She
do
was
the
just
right
hot.
thing. Well,
She beat
I
him with
guess
her
that
hotness.
too.
Hey Roman,
Look at her.
I'm gonna.
So
buy-
you got to go,
Yeah.
Daniel. Okay,
Go,
let me-
Daniel.
let me
Thank you
down
for
a
thank you
second.
for having me. No, I don't have to thank a big deal. I'm just gonna thank you again.
That's right. Jacob Ironside.
Pleasure.
Throw his comment.
Always a pleasure, Daniel.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Daniel.
it was
Nice
good to
seeing
have
you,
you here, Daniel. And take care of those pipes, brother.
Yeah,
They're
thank
gold.
you.
Yeah, have a
Good
good
night,
one, man.
everyone.
Okay, so Jacob said Miss Fury's not afraid to use guns. She's got a Thompson machine gun in one artwork. Very true.
Let me see. That's it. For this
Batman used guns
page.
too.
Yes, he did.
People just don't remember.
So was she created primarily for a female audience or
No.
just
In fact, that's why Tarpe dropped her first name of June, because she didn't think little boys would want to read her comics if they knew they were written and drawn by a woman, which makes me sad for her.
She was created because she was an awesome character, and it sold. And then the Comics Code cracked down on a lot of characters
Mhm.
like that. So
Stupid comics code.
Stay
I
strapped
know.
or get clapped. Come on.
yeah.
Well,
Um,
interestingly enough, regarding her identity as a woman, as a writer in the comic book and spy genre, she didn't want her name. It was a self-proclaimed thing. She didn't want her name contaminated by writing for comic books, so that it wasn't like she was being muscled around in any sort of way.
No, that was her
This was a
personal choice.
proactive choice on her part, because she also had a short story and novel writing career that actually took off. I was trying to find it. I just recently came across a whole documentary on her, specifically about Miss Fury, but another one about something called The Spider. And this was like around the same time as The Shadow was, doing comic books and stuff. And she had written a novel about, a woman falling in love with another woman, and it was that kind of a intrigue story. And I know that the book was adapted as well and became a piece of cinema. So she was actually really concerned that her voice in that genre would be contaminated by writing in boys'
And
comic books.
And that was a common William Moulton Marston.
That's right. Yeah.
Creator of
Didn't
Wonder
want his
Woman.
professorship screwed up.
As soon as they found out, even though he changed his name, but he was still taking care of his wife and his other wife and their multiple children with his comic book buddies.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know that
World War
story?
II.
Left Eye Look
I
Up.
don't know that one.
Okay, you really? Oh my God. Okay, watch the very first video I ever made, or let's say and. So watch that one and then watch the movie, Mr. Marston and the Wonder Women, I believe it's called. They made a movie about it.
Yes. Yeah, there's also a really, really good documentary. There's a book that I read called The Secret Life of Wonder Woman.
Yes.
That is extremely
Yes, very
informative.
good.
Highly
Very good.
recommended.
Very good.
It's just a documentary about the process of creating Wonder Woman and the lifestyle that the author and his spouses were living at that time.
Wonder Woman is an amalgamation of Elizabeth Marston and Olive Byrne. And Olive Byrne was actually the niece of Margaret Sanger. So they were, and William Moulton Marston and Elizabeth Marston and Olive Byrne technically all created the lie detector. So if you think about it, Wonder Woman totally makes sense.
Yep.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, the lasso of
Watch my
truth
very
is
first
actually
video.
a
It's
comic
super
book
awkward.
metaphor.
Yeah. Watch my first video. It's very poorly made because it was my very first one ever, but it's all about Wonder Woman, how she was created, everything. It's about everything.
Yeah,
It's a
fascinating look
documentary?
into early comic books.
It's a documentary?
There's a book and a film. I think there's a film on Netflix that
Professor
basically
Marston
is a
and the Wonder Woman?
documentary.
Yes, Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. But
All
please
right, it's
watch
on
my video
Amazon
as well
Prime.
for the views.
Right.
Oh, this goes without saying. Of course.
No, that's wow. That's
Mommy needs a
groundbreaking in
beer,
itself
kids.
there, Danny.
Wow.
So Left Eye E.G.O, you said you got to go here in a sec because
Yeah. I gotta head out in a few.
things.
Are we doing a
Yeah.
part 3 or do you want him to throw up his other book?
Oh, please be bringing back part 3.
Let's do part 3.
I
We'll
would
do
love
part
to
3 in a couple
I'll
weeks.
be
back
gone
We'll,
for 2 weeks. Remember that one.
No, I've got next week already scheduled. I'll
We're
be
talking about
announcing that at
ET
the end of
next
this.
week. That's what we're talking about.
What was that, Matt?
Oh, I'm messing with you, Roman. I was going to say we're doing a whole 2-hour show on ET next week.
That little
We're
gray
going
bastard.
long for 2 hours.
Yeah, and Roman will be riding on a bicycle for the whole show, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
With a
With a
red
machine
hoodie,
gun
do you
after that little
promise?
bastard.
With the heat turned up in his
So
garage.
much.
Anyway, yo, but I'll check you guys later. Thank you guys for having me on. I
Very
really
nice.
appreciate it.
Thank you so
Alright.
much for
See you
Hey,
guys.
what do you got coming up?
See you,
Before you
Ego.
leave, don't
Oh,
plug your stuff. Plug your stuff.
Sure. With me, Left Eye E.G.O, I'll be hosting with Abomination A.G this Saturday for episode 39 of Heroes No Capes. Sunday afternoon, my wife and I, Shiro, are going to be going live with our Ordinary Gains episode. Going to be reacting to good and very bad TikTok advice from TikTok dating experts.
Oh my
it.
gosh.
Can we drop a link for him?
So please check that out. But again, thank you guys so much for having me on. I look forward to being on part 3.
Right.
Pleasure
on.
meeting you, Ego.
Thank you, Ego.
All right, see ya. You
Very
go.
funny.
Out.
Can we drop a link for Ego in the chat?
All of the links are in the
they?
description of the show. I've got everybody's info
Because
over
I am slow and I don't pay attention. Thank you.
there.
Yeah, that's
I
a
do-
skill I have to learn still. I have no idea how to drop links in chat.
So I do want to share if you guys were with me last week or this week or whatever week I did it, because I get distracted and my sense of time is very confused. I did a action figure review of the Swamp Thing, and I was having a bit of a difficult time. He had some mobility issues. So Jacob Ironside,
I have some of those as well.
because I'm like, oh no, I was trying to bend his knee. And it was fine. It was fine. But this is it's very comic book-ish. The what if? I don't want to snap the leg off. Thank you, Jacob.
A different sort of snap.
That video would have been a lot more colorful, I think, if the leg had snapped off. And I'm just grateful that it did not.
Watch Roman
Hey,
kick the sledgehammer
sometimes
through
it
his
happens,
figurine.
okay? There's nothing to be ashamed of, Roman. Sometimes the leg just comes off.
But it did. So everything was okay.
That was hilarious, by the way, to those who don't know.
Thank you for the prompt. I didn't know when to laugh, Danny.
If I make a leg joke, you can laugh. If someone else does, you
Oh
better
God!
shame their
Oh
ass.
Lord! Oh,
A little flaccid leg going on.
That's hysterical.
I can't control them, folks.
You
They're
can-
gonna
listen,
do what they're gonna
Here's the
do.
rule.
Yeah,
Here's the rule.
see?
If you can come up with a leg joke that I have not heard before in my 30 years of being an amputee, go for it. But you better be confident. I've never heard it before. So
I have
heard-
one right now that I want to say so bad, but I'm not going to do it.
If it's take your
Is
leg
it-
off and beat him with it, I've heard it 100 bajillion
no,
times.
not that. That's passe.
Thank you. Low hanging fruit.
Hey, I just wanted to note, since we're dealing with low-hanging fruit,
Yes.
Here is a celebrated Navy officer who can't control a bunch of geeks and nerds. Thank you, U.S. Navy, for the serious training.
So much hope for my son.
So
Gotta love
try
that
to get
Navy.
back on track, and that's a hell of a thing. Matt, why don't we jump over to you? You've always got some bizarre and fascinating choices.
This one isn't so bizarre and fascinating. You'll, when you see what it is, you'll pretty much get my mentality in a lot of respects. So my favorite
You gotta-
creators, like there's a
Matt, do you
small
have a
group.
screen, or do you want me to try?
I'll
to track
talk to you
down,
share
or-
in a second. I don't want to reveal it until I
perfect.
talk about it. You know, my favorite like comic creators. I mean, there's a lot, but the ones that come to mind, you know, John Byrne, Jim Shooter, you know, Hirano who did Hellsing, Kishimoto who did Naruto, Kibo who did Bleach, Julius Schwartz, you know, plus the all-time great creators like I talked about last time, you know.
Yeah.
But the number one guy, like Shooter is my favorite because of what he did running all of Marvel in the 80s, right? But as far as singular comics go, the number one guy comic creator to me is Grant Morrison.
Oh yeah, he's
Everything, and he's a master comic writer. And you know, I'll about to share the thing. But he the one character he knows better than anyone else is Superman, and he wrote like his masterwork to me was written about 20 years or so ago. It's my favorite comic book maxi series, and some people probably know it is by now. I'll give you the opening screen here. If I could find out all my little thousands of windows open, here we go. So
There we go. Got it.
All-Star Superman with Grant Morrison
yeah.
and Frank Quietly. And for those who don't know who Frank Quietly is, he does a lot of. If Grant Morrison wrote something, there's a 50% chance that Frank Quietly drew it. Okay, so this is the cover to the first issue, and if you want to know some of the reasons why Grant Morrison just gets Superman, I'm going to show you the first panel, and there's a little anecdote that goes with this. So all the times we've been told Superman's story, Morrison nails it in 4 panels. Morrison and Quietly. This is Superman's entire origin in 4. Just how many times it's been multiple comic books, you know, World of Krypton, how many times it's been multiple issues or a whole miniseries. He nails the whole thing, him and Quietly. And this whole series is like that. There's moment after moment where he gets his story. Like there's a scene where Superman is in another dimension, okay? And a planet is stuck there. So Superman solves it in a very Superman-esque way. You know what he does? He punches it into another universe.
makes sense.
And when you're reading that, you're like, you know, for any other character who doesn't have a history of doing absurd stuff like that, like there's an awesome Legion Superhero story where in one galaxy was going to be destroyed, so they made a giant chained all the planets together, and Superboy flew them all to another galaxy in a few seconds to save all the people in the galaxy. And as absurd as that sounds, that's part of what Superman is, doing the absurd to save everyone. You know, like at the end of Final Crisis when he literally sings to save all creation. And if it wasn't Superman and it wasn't Grant Morrison writing it, you wouldn't get it. You know, so when I expose people to comic books for the first time, I give them All-Star Superman because it's complete unto itself. Yes, it ties into all his other stuff because Grant Morrison does all that. But you could read this 12-issue series and be done with the character of Superman and never have to read another Superman story, although I think this would inspire you to do so, and get the character in its entirety. Which is such a beautiful work. And like of the totality of Superman's existence, right? Well, I'm going to share another issue from it to show you the type of thing Morrison does, right?
So what you're saying is he like trims the fat and cuts the crap. Is
Well, in a way, but he also ties into stuff like when he writes. You'll get it. Maybe you'll get it with the next panel they want to share. So we all know that Superman's father, Jonathan Kent, in most of the storylines dies, right? You know.
yeah.
Let me find the right one. Is it this one? Nope. Is it this one? Yep. Okay. So, and now in All-Star Superman, this is the first time Superman meets his descendant. If you could share that there, Roman.
Yep, got it.
So there was a storyline called DC 1 Million, if you guys remember the 1990s, where they went to the future of the DC universe, like a million months in the future, basically. And it turns out Superman had many, many, many descendants, right? And they all became the Supermans of different eras, right? So this is Superman Prime, not with the hyphen. This is the real Superman Prime, the first Superman. That's All-Star Superman. And they come back from the future to try to save the one regret Superman has. And it was when the Chronovore attacked Smallville and Superman went to go save it. But because he spent that 3 minutes saving it, he couldn't save Pa Kent from having a heart attack. And Morrison writes the way he does it. You know, like here's this character here I don't know if you can see it. This character here is Superman Prime from the future, himself from the future, who is the golden Superman of DC 1 Million. And he said, you know, I'm almost tearing up now. Sorry, guys. This gets to me every time I read it. You know, like he's talking to his father, like, I know you're going to die and I can't do anything about it because I made the choice in the past to save everyone from the Chronovore. You know, it just, sorry, I'm actually tearing up. It's how much this particular version of the story gets to me. But I think this is the seminal Superman story ever written before and since. And every time, a lot about the death of Superman out, which is a really good story. But it's not where you start. That's where you read 2 or 3 lines in or whatever. You know, this is a starter Superman story that I would give. Like I have a friend. My friend's daughter wanted to read comics, and I ordered a graphic novel version of this and had it sent out right away to them. You know. Now the counterpart to this is don't watch the animated version. It's horrible. It's utterly dreck. But the comic version of this is gold. It's pure comic gold. So
yeah, that was surprising too, Matt, because DC usually does really nice with their animated features. All-Star Superman was not good though.
It was horrible. As good as All-Star Superman the comic was, and you know the stuff, the sacrifices, the storytelling, you know, the way it all worked out. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it because I don't. Even though it's 20 years old, I feel bad. This is one of the few things I feel bad spoiling. You know, because people haven't read it. It is such a Superman. He does so many Superman things. When you meet Zibaro, for example, slight spoiler, he is the Bizarro Superman from the Bizarro world, which means he's not Bizarro Superman. He's the Bizarro of Bizarro Superman. Normally. But he's been trapped on a Bizarro world his whole life. And they hate him. Whereas they love Superman and they love Bizarro, they hate Zibaro, the Bizarro Superman. And,
wow.
And he sacrifices his freedom, chance to be free. He had built a rocket to escape Bizarro world so that this Superman could go back home and live because he was going to die. Superman in any dimension is Superman.
I'm going to have to attack the chat at this point. It wasn't an open invitation, Copa and everyone else.
Oh, no.
Let it go.
Oh, God.
So I strongly recommend going out and getting All-Star Superman.
Yeah, I've added that to my list. That's what I've been doing over here.
Nice
Putting it in my shopping cart.
Yeah.
That and Batman Black Mirror. I need that one. He sold me.
And then you know, there are a lot of other Superman stories I could recommend over the years, but this is where I say start with.
See, and I've never really been a huge Superman fan because he's always been just too one-dimensional for me, you know. I need internal struggle. I need internal darkness, something to overcome, because deep down in the pit of my soul, I am just black-hearted and cold.
Well, Danny, that's a very interesting point, and I think it's a pit of jeopardy that the character of Superman is facing in the future.
Yeah.
I think that the Fleischer animated feature, the animated shorts,
Yeah.
did it the best, where
Yeah.
the camera was much more focused on the witnessing of Superman, as opposed to the camera looking at Clark Kent, the man who becomes Superman. I don't think that that's a proper avenue to follow with a character that is so godlike.
Right.
He's supposed to be, and I've presented this before. I think I was on a channel with Roman not that long ago, where I presented the idea that Superman should be a witnessed character, being a beacon to society, as opposed to us looking at the dialogue from Superman's internal thoughts. I think that's a mistake.
You know, I completely agree with you, because I've always said, you know, when I'm talking about how DC and Marvel are they're apples and oranges, it's because DC is in the business of making gods, stark differences between good and evil, black and white. It's all about morality tales, gods you should aspire to be. But
Right.
Marvel's about relatability, ambiguity. What would happen to you if you were bitten by a radioactive spider?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
so
that's
what
why
you're
placing
saying
it in the
makes
real
perfect
world
sense.
was such a prime target.
Absolutely. 100% agree. And I have added this to my card. So
Well,
thank
even
you,
if
Matt.
you want to go Superman and the ramifications of it, remember I said Superman Prime without the hyphen. Superman Prime with the hyphen is Superboy Prime, the Superman of our real world. And one of the amazing things that Morrison and Johns did with Infinite Crisis is, well, when you lock a little kid who's in a prison he can't escape from for 20 years, he goes crazy. You know, I mean, that's how he became. He didn't go evil; he went crazy. You know, and it was very well done, and you would expect that. I mean, Kal-El had Lois to get it on with for 20 years. You know what I mean? In that dimensional prison. Emo Prime, Superboy Prime, didn't have anything other than punching the wall, so to speak.
All right, Copa, seriously.
I had
for
to
heaven's
thigh.
sakes.
I had to
Give
thigh.
that leg a rest, Copa.
I can't stand for this.
Copa, we're going to cut your
good
legs out
grief.
from under you if you keep it up, man.
Just whipping out the dad jokes now. Great.
That was terrible.
Can anybody just meet me halfway?
It's over. It's over. That's it, folks. We're done for the night. No,
That's
I'm
right.
joking.
Hey, I don't cut below the joint. I smoke joints.
I'm back for that one.
There you go.
This was
I'd like to bring it
Matt.
home.
This is a great book, and this was. You want to talk? You're right. The quintessential Superman. This is.
Wait, I got one more one more scene.
Oh,
from you.
excellent.
One more. Let me stop screen. Present. Share screen. Window.
Yeah, Matt, I got to say, I mean, I'm not really familiar with this book. I've certainly seen some stills on some panels and such. The artwork is just so delicious looking.
Yeah.
The airbrushing of Superman's suit leads me to believe that it's made out of a fabric. It's just such a soft, subtle blue shade.
Yeah, look at the
really
difference.
great.
Look at the difference in the highlight and contour of his face and on his uniform.
So I'm not
Totally
going to explain how they got to this scene because it's one of the spoilers for this. I'm not going to tell you, okay? But Superman hit a certain point in the story, right? And then Lois finally knows who he is. This is one of the first time Lois knows who he is, which is the spoiler I'm hiding, right? And in the middle of all that, when he could finally begin to deal with the thing I'm not telling you, and he's getting with Lois finally, Lois knows who he is. He hears something, and this is a scene that's been duplicated. It was duplicated when Johns had Kingdom Come Superman cross over into the main reality. It was duplicated in multiple animated versions. This is where the scene comes from. Superman hears something, right? And he flies off to save someone. And it's not a building falling. It's not even, he doesn't even use one superpowers. It's this scene here where he just tells this little girl who's about to jump off a building how Doctor really was late to her appointment. And that's quintessential Superman at its core. And he doesn't look how many words. He doesn't even have 30 words on this page, and
Yeah,
he
it
masterfully
seems
tells
like,
the
I've never
story.
read this book. It just seems like he just cuts the crap and he really gets to
Yeah.
to the meat of the story.
He's very Scottish.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, then that makes sense.
he's super Scottish. Have you seen his we'll call it the rebirth of Zurin R, that insane Silver Age Batman story where Batman goes to another planet?
I was one of the only people who knew what that was when Grant Morrison did that. All my friends were like, Matt, you gotta know
He's
about
met
this. Like, tell us
another.
about the Batman of Zurinar. And I said, well, from many, many years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
I've been watching you from my space TV.
Yeah.
I'm
But-
super inspired.
But for Grant Morrison to have Batman have that much of a backup, they put a secret personality in Batman's head just in case that happened.
And then he
That was
like rips it
quintessential
off and he
Batman.
stands there in that bright red. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. It's so
Quintessential
fantastic.
Batman. He has a backup plan for almost anything.
Zurin R. And my
Zurin R.
They
next
actually made that action figure as well.
really?
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to break down Silver Age Batman, and I talk a lot about, or I have a whole section on Zurin R. When I get back from vacation, I'm recording that.
The oldest comic with Batman that I have, it's one of my grandmother's surviving comics, is the one where Batman discovered a secret diary by his parents and realized he was from Krypton too, but he had been exposed to gold kryptonite.
I do kind of love, Silver Age Batman was such a roller coaster for the poor guy because he starts off at like the highest of highs, and they're like, you know what? Just go batshit with it. Why not? It's Batman. And then it goes boo, and they're like, wait a minute, we might have to cancel this. Like, this is sex.
Yeah.
Rainbow Batman, Scottish Batman, Zurin R, the Space Olympics. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have speculated in the past on whether or not this whole idea of adaptation and speculative futures on IPs, that anything we're experiencing today is something new. Because there were Batman fans from the 40s and 30s that must have felt like they were completely run under the bus because of what was going on in Silver Age Batman. They must have been like, what the hell are you guys doing? You totally turned him into a goofball.
Yeah. Kid, we really need to give big ups to Julie Schwartz, Gardner Fox, and Neil Adams for saving the Dark Knight.
Bring it back.
Well, no.
Also, Jules Schwartz
Batman-
created. Do you
60s
remember
Batman
Ambush
sold
Bug?
quite well. The 60s were a good time for DC Comics. It was
Yes.
70s that things started to Schwartz said, wait a minute, this is unsustainable for what we're doing.
Damn it,
You know?
Copa.
The 70s were where they started getting like dark.
Yeah.
Then the comics code was like, you know what? You can talk about drugs as long as you don't make it look fun.
Yeah, well, wasn't whatchamacallit, Green Lantern and the Green Arrow, they did a
Yes, the
whole
heroin.
run of
And-
drug addiction
and
and
that
street
doesn't-
violence.
That's never set with me that Speedy got hooked on heroin. Like Speedy should have got hooked on speed. Let's all be
Yeah,
real
I mean,
here.
go with
Well,
the
that's true,
amphetamines,
yeah.
dude. It's just
That would be a
you
great
gotta stay
method.
with your nature.
Like he got hooked on something that would slow him down. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Come on, know your drugs, DC. Know your
That's
drugs.
funny. It is interesting that during the 60s that whole event even happened. I mean, I get where they were going. I get where the artists were finding inspiration because they were trying to talk to kids in this
Yeah.
crazy world that was manifesting on the streets with the drug addictions and crazy music and such like that, and social problems and injustice.
Well,
they were kind of like redefining what these heroes were even talking about.
Right.
during the
And
60s.
you know how they got to that point where they were even allowed to talk about it in comics was because the government, the health and welfare education asked Stan Lee, like, hey, we want one of your popular books to talk about how drugs are bad.
Right.
And he's like, okay. And he took the risk and set it out even though they didn't have the stamp on it, the Comic Code Authority stamp, and they got away with it. Not only did they get away with it, it was their best-selling book in months, and nuns and teachers are writing them letters saying, "Good for you, Sonny." And so DC was like, "All right, get Speedy a needle and fill it with junk. We're going to print."
Yep. Yeah, see, Danny, that's a perfect example of how Marvel led the chase in the first place, and that DC was trying to catch up even in the 60s. So
Well, this was
once again, this is
71.
not anything new. What's going on with Marvel and Warner
Oh
Brothers?
yeah, no. And I mean, honestly, when it all started, it was Marvel chasing DC. That's where they got the idea for the Fantastic Four from the Justice League.
Right.
Stan Lee was playing golf with Jules Schwartz. He's like, "Oh, we got this thing coming out. It's called the Justice League." And Stan Lee's like, "Oh, it sounds like it's gonna make some money." So he goes back to Marvel and he's like, "Make me something like that." And
I would
The
interject,
unabridged story.
the end of the Comics Code began in the early 70s when competition from Astro Boy, Gigantor, the early anime and manga coming over with them, Lone Wolf and Cub, which is, when all that started leaking into this country, Battle of the Planets in the late 70s, Galaxy Express, whatever, and so on. And all that darker stuff and more adult-oriented writing, the comic fans like, we like this stuff. So indie comics started publishing, I'm not going to say adult-oriented comics, but not all the happy-go-lucky 60s stuff,
Right.
Well,
It's important to note that it
without
wasn't just
distributors.
Japan, Matt, that it was also the European marketplace was also starting to do stuff. Now that they had finally gotten themselves out of post-war Europe, they were finally starting to produce some top-notch illustrated books.
It always was. What I'm saying is there was a huge influx from that Japanese market. But remember, we had to tie into the Japanese market since World War II, up until about 1989 or so. There was a direct open courier, so to speak, with Japanese products being allowed into the U.S. at no trade, no tariffs, no nothing. So it was very easy for them to just put the product over here at the same cost it was in Japan, Whereas stuff from Europe was under tariff and trade and all that sort, even books, So
well, it's funny you mentioned 89 because that was actually the last year that the Comic Code Authority had any effect whatsoever, because that's when they finally took out of there. Like in the 70s, when this Stan Lee came out with the Spider-Man story with drugs, Harry being hooked on pills and Speedy getting hooked on heroin. They went back and they were like, okay, so you can talk about drugs so long as you make them look bad. And then the 80s came out. We all knew North Star was gay, but they still had the rule in the Comic Code Authority that you couldn't talk about it. So in 89, it was actually a Superman story. It was, what's her name? She's the question. Why can't I say her name?
Renee.
Okay, so Renee, it was kind of hinted around.
Renee Montoya, I think
That's it. I don't know why I couldn't say it. Probably because I'm old.
Yeah, she was the new question, yeah.
Yes. So back then she was just a police detective and Superman would talk to her and it was kind of danced around that she was into women. Well, they finally took it back to the Comic Code Authority and they're like, listen, it's 1989, man. It's not 1950 anymore. And there are gay people in the world and there are people who are addicted to drugs and there's these things. And if we want to teach children to not kill themselves over things that they are keeping to themselves because they're too scared to talk about it, then we have to talk about it.
Right.
But we have to do it in the right way.
There's also
So
the
they
entire
removed
history of AIDS going on at the same time
exactly.
as well. So it was more like health and self-awareness as well.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So they took that off the list of things and they also took vampires off. They took vampires off the list. And so that was like the last thing that the Comic Code Authority had any power over. I mean, they existed, I think, until 2006. And then it was like, yeah, we're not members anymore. So you're gonna have to disappear. But it's really funny how that stuff works out. They really had zero power whatsoever. They had no power. They couldn't do anything to you other than distributors saying, yeah, we're not buying that. It's just silly.
Yeah. No,
well, I'm glad.
And to be honest, that's a private business relationship. If someone said we're not going to buy your product, I'm perfectly fine people doing that in private. You know what I mean? I'm not, as long as the government's not, well, as we found out from the recent Twitter files, collusion and all that.
Oh
What?
yeah.
Yeah. But,
He's making that up, FBI agent Gordon. It's fine.
Just do one of these.
Yes.
Nice.
So, Stephen Ransom, what do you got
Sir.
for us today?
Well, actually, I wanted to kind of turn it back a little bit towards what Daniel had brought up on his exit. A very brief mention of the Spider-Man universe in the hands of Todd McFarlane. As a young artist in the 80s, I went absolutely bonkers. The level of line work and detail, the spider web actually was a personality on screen. Every single cover was a Nina thing where you could count the number of spiders hanging around in the illustration. It just became a whole magic show. It was really altering to the entire industry. I mean, people were buying books merely because there were multiple covers. And Todd McFarlane was a big part of that. And he gave us Spawn. He gave us Venom. He gave us horror without horror. It was all so good. It was just great stuff.
Todd McFarlane is really unsung. I mean, he has a huge fan base. Don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of people don't really realize what all he has contributed to the comic book industry. The Creator Bill of Rights. Creators can have ownership of their own creations now. That is huge.
That's right. And that's what makes him a legend in the field.
Absolutely.
Because he was a big broker for that freedom of artist movement that happened and gave birth to Image Comics and all of the things I mean, some of the stuff that Todd McFarlane was tinkering around with literally gave birth to the existence of Deadpool.
Yes.
Because it was that new sense of humor, that edgy sense of humor.
Oh, I like him.
Spawn #1 is one of the 4 most significant comic books of all time.
Right.
I've always said that Spawn was for comics for people who hate joy.
By the way, the comic Roman just brought up, that's Spider-Man #1, which was the 4th Spider-Man title at the time. The art's great, but the storyline Torment is not very good. McFarlane wasn't a great writer yet. He was a great artist and an okay writer at the time. Just be aware, you're buying those first McFarlane Spider-Man for his artwork, not for anything he wrote.
Right, exactly.
Batman
I don't know.
Really
I think the Daredevil run in Frank Miller's hands is a much more legendary example of writing at its peak. Like Daredevil was a below C-note character that quite literally became a legendary figure in the Marvel canon. So, and that's all Frank Miller's work. And look at the way McFarlane is handling Wolverine.
Yeah.
And this was a celebrated character at the time. He was on every single cover of every book.
What's up?
Scroll up. I'm trying to remember what that is. Because there's a Spider-Man Wolverine graphic novel there at the time, but I don't think McFarlane had anything to do with it. It was from like 5 years before that. It was good. It's just some kind of it was the death of the original Hobgoblin, Ned Leeds. But it was written by someone who had no idea how Spider-Man's powers worked, but it was good.
Isn't there a picture of Wolverine with his claws out, and inside the reflection of the claws is Hulk? Isn't that a McFarlane as well? I distinctly remember that.
Coming from
that image sounds very familiar. Let me see.
Yeah, it's Wolverine. It's on.
I can find.
Yeah, he's got his claw out, and inside the animanium is the reflection of Hulk.
Let me see if it'll let me bring up this cover. This is a different cover than we're talking about, but this is a really cool looking cover.
Yeah, I don't know why, Copa. I'm thinking that might actually be a John Byrne book.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know that don't take my memory as anything solid.
Yeah,
in that regard.
I'm a little fuzzy on it. I was pretty sure that was McFarlane as well, but I remember that cover when I was a kid.
I totally remember that period in time where they brought back Gray Hulk again, which is awesome. It was so cool to do the retro.
I love that Gray Hulk was an accident too. Like some of the best stuff happens by accident.
Right. It was a printing issue, wasn't it? It was a color syncing issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was the original. That's why the Hulk was originally gray. Well, they couldn't. It was supposed to be green from the beginning, but
that's it.
That's
exactly it. Is that McFarlane?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
Okay.
is a McFarlane.
Yeah, that's
isn't it?
McFarlane.
Wow.
God,
Yeah, they all blur
gosh,
together
Man,
at that
that is
time.
a beautiful freaking image.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that as a kid. I'm pretty sure I have a card of it.
Do you know what I really love about Todd McFarlane is that he created Spawn when he was a kid. He
Yeah.
was a teenager. He created fully fleshed out character at like 16 years old. And then anytime you see him talking about Bob Kane, it's basically like that guy. He's full of He's like Bob Kane tried to say that he created Batman at 13 years old after the fact. Like way after the fact.
Way
Like,
after the fact.
yeah, pulling out pieces of paper that's like, yeah, I drew this in 1933. And they're like, oh, this is 85, and this is lined notebook paper with 3 holes punched in it. It's amazing. I didn't know they made it back then. And anytime you hear Todd McFarlane talk about it, he's like, yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
He can't
Well,
stand it.
interestingly enough, that legendary story, true or false as it may be, it did give inspiration to a lot of guys who did do the things. I mean, McFarlane created Spawn as a child, as a young person, and John Byrne created, goodness, the leader of Alpha Flight. I forget the Guardian.
Yeah.
Well,
That was a character that was created by John Byrne when he was still in school.
By the way, if you want something great by John Byrne, that's his entirely. John Byrne's Next Man.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
God, John Byrne was my damn hero. He was just so his anatomy work in Fantastic Four and then
Yes.
transposed into his reimagining of the Superman franchise for DC. God, that guy was so good. Everything looked like it was a photograph.
His run of She-Hulk.
Yes.
He reinvented She-Hulk.
Yeah.
I wish no one had ever touched She-Hulk in any fashion.
Except John Byrne. John Byrne's allowed to
Sorry,
grope
that was
all he wants.
Something caught in my throat.
She-Hulk was a fine character, part of modern Marvel. I mean, she was a B character, but she was a fine character. You know,
I love how she
She was fine.
I love so much the psychology behind She-Hulk because the Hulk is the duality of man. Well, what is the duality of woman? It's the duality of staying here, keeping my emotions inside so you don't freak out when I say
I was thinking
And
the
then
two
She-Hulk
primary things.
she became
cooking and
a
cleaning.
party monster
Yeah.
when she was a Hulk. That's
But
what
she doesn't wash anything. She never makes a sandwich. I don't.
She
understand
doesn't
how
even
she's
know
one
how to
girl.
make a sandwich.
I'm joking. I kid. I can say this
Here
because
we
Mr.
go
the
again.
Empire is in the house, and that's where the
No,
knives are.
I always
Oh,
felt like
okay.
the She-Hulk's Hulk made total sense for the duality of woman.
yeah.
Yeah.
It made total sense. And when
Yeah,
he brought that out more, like she likes to drink, she likes to party, she likes to bone. Like, get it, girl, go.
Yeah.
Go, girl. Yes.
Yeah,
queen.
yes, Queen
Yes.
Slay.
Yeah. That's why I thought it was such an insult that anybody was criticizing the
The
She-Hulk that
partying,
we
that's
were
where the
familiar
twerking
with.
involves. Here's the
'Cause-
thing. The show She-Hulk, and I'm just going to say this one time. The show She-Hulk was her behavior was on par for the character for the most part. The twerking, whatever. That was on par. The problem is the show lacked what it should have been. It should have been episodic. There should have been violence. It should have started out with the cold open, with a superhero and a villain fighting, and then they need a lawyer and they go to She-Hulk, and then superheroing ensues. But they didn't do that, and that's where they failed. But the twerking, the getting busy with every dude she looked at, that's totally She-Hulk, 100%.
Yeah, the whole premise.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
I want to say something. I'm not I like the movie. I don't love it like I do. But what's his face looking through the dude's arm, like Steve Buscemi, what is his name? When he's doing, go back and play the scene and watch it. He's looking like his eyes.
You want to play it again?
What?
People don't notice this. That scene when he's doing that you played, Steve Buscemi looking through the triangle of his arm, like that piercing stare of his, makes it even better. Like
Now I got to do it again.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
I never noticed that.
Did you ever see him trying to
Classic
move his head
Buscemi.
like you can see, like trying to look better to the hole? It's like-
Oh,
like,
wow, that's
he's
awesome.
doing
No,
this.
I would have liked. I
Hey,
feel
Greg.
like that they made that show thinking this is what girls who like comic books want, right? No, we like the violence too.
In the
There's-
comic book, is she better than the Hulk as well at everything?
The
I
what?
don't think they
Greg?
ever cross paths, to be honest.
Oh
You
no,
know,
they
it's not
fight each
really a
other.
big
Everyone
deal.
fights the Hulk in the comics.
Yeah,
But
she
I
crosses
never
paths.
remember that being a point in the comic books where somebody was saying, "I'm better than you." You know, anything
Yeah.
you could do, I could do.
You
better
don't know what
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
that
Bruce.
didn't
I
happen.
get catcalled every day.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, Copa!
Oh my god!
You know what we shouldn't talk about? She-Hulk.
The Copa Contrarian. That should be the name of a Friday night show, Copa.
Oh,
I'll take it. I'll do it.
Copa Contrarian.
Why can't I
because
laugh
if
without snorting?
because if I get started, then I can't stop, and if I
Butcher?
can't stop,
Guys,
We
hot off
can't
the
stop.
presses. They're doing a sequel to E.T. where E.T. gets captured by the government and She-Hulk represents him as his lawyer.
Nice. There we
That'd be
go.
good.
There's
Yeah.
a perfect thing for Roman to
We
do a
have
show
Roman
on.
choke out on camera.
it's a perfect circle there.
Yeah, I'm
Roman,
not an ET
Jeff,
fan.
don't watch it because it's something you don't like. And why would you steal your own joy?
Because that's what they want to vomit.
That's what they
upon
want
us
us to
as
do.
Fans. That's what they want us to do. And that's what they said. And that's why I hate their entire writing staff. And I really wish the building had caught fire, but it didn't. So
Aw.
anyway,
But yeah, but-
Shieldwall, did you have anything you wanted to present, buddy?
So I wanted to talk about a manga from my childhood, well, from my early years.
You guys
It-
should have had my daughter up here for all this manga because I
Well, it's an old one. Its run was from 1983 to 1988, and it's 245 issues that they put into 27 books, basically. So
Wow.
they kind of cram them together. And I've had all 20. I've had that 27 set, but I could never get book 16, which is a seminal battle between the two main characters. I just couldn't find it. Anyway, it's Fist of the North Star.
Oh my
Um,
god. All time great.
Yeah, and its main
Great.
character is Kenshiro.
You are
Um,
already dead.
Right. And he's like a mega Chad, and every other dude in there that's a good guy or one of the main characters is like a super Chad. And so when you're a young teen and you're seeing this stuff, you're like, holy crap, this is way more violent, way more blood, way more like. So he knows this martial art, and the setting is set in post-apocalyptic world. So there's been like a nuclear war, and it's like Mad Max, basically. Guys riding around on motorcycles. There's no water. Money isn't worth anything. There's slavers and, doing horrible stuff to women and all that. And that's not him. That's one of the bad guys.
That's crazy looking, man. Wow.
And so, but the martial arts are so strong that people can like put their finger
So-
through you.
Would you
Yeah.
like me to explain it? Because I love Fist of the North Star.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So you guys have seen all the 70s like anime, like Hong Kong action movies. You know what they are, right? They have all these weird martial arts styles. So there's in the world setting, there's two schools of martial arts that predominate the metaphysical world. There's the schools of the North Star, which is the North Star in the sky, and the South Star. That's south. That's actually Souther, right? Or is that
No, that's I'm trying to think of his name. It's not Kenshiro. That's
Souther. Souther. I remember his English name, not his Japanese name. But anyway, the schools of the North Star practice an assassination style based on the pressure points of the body, the physical and metaphysical ones. And the way it works is because it's such a deadly martial arts style, there can be a lot of students of it, but only one master who's actually allowed to use and know the style, right? And it passes from a line of masters to students. The master would train a bunch of students, and one of them becomes the new Fist of the North Star. The other ones agree to stop practicing it. They can still use the regular. They just can't use the superpower parts of it, right? So, and their balance are the many martial arts of all the Southern styles. As long as they remain in balance, the world remains at peace and prosperous, right? Well, the leader of the South Star, who was Kenshiro's friend, basically like kills him. Okay, to put it simple, and nuclear war happens. Okay, because the world's out of balance, right? So I'm grossly oversimplifying this. I know I'm skipping stuff, guys who hear this. I know I'm skipping stuff, but I'm not trying to bore everyone with every fine detail. Okay, so he basically leaves him for dead. Where he puts holes in his chest. You can see Kenshiro has them as scars, and one of the few wounds Kenshiro cannot heal is what the Southern style did to him. Okay, and eventually he recovers and goes looking for his lost love Yuria, and who's in the hands of his enemy Souther, or the English name.
Yeah, it's Souther.
Yeah,
Is his name.
and he's started an empire. He's trying to rebuild the world, but he can't because there's no balance between the North and the South. And it starts as Kenshiro's journey across the lands, taking apart Souther's forces. Now, the premise of it is, while I was a little kid when I first saw this, the anime is old. I remember I was like 10 or whatever, and the very first scene I saw was Kenshiro walking through a skyscraper, like just walking through it, and I was like, oh, you're a little kid, and his martial arts style works by basically, he can do anything to you with your pressure points, metaphysical or because they're not just physical pressure points, they're like 720 of them or something like that. Like he can do things like cause your arm to explode, cure any disease you have. He's almost omnipotent as long as he can touch you with his chakra, basically, or his chi. Sorry,
don't you touch me with your chakra?
Right.
What the heck?
If you notice, see how he's got the Mad Max like leather on?
Yeah.
So
you see those circles right there? Those are the fingers of Souther.
Right. That they put him in there, and it's in the shape of a Big Dipper, because that's what the Fist of the North Star represents, is the Big Dipper is their symbol. So the thing about the Hokuto Shinken, which is that's the martial art that they train in, is that most people, even if they're fully trained, only use about 30% of their power. Well, when he activates his power, usually getting mad or whatever, he gets bigger and his like shirt will rip off and everything, and he'll have like this energy coming off of him, and then you're boned then, because he's basically going to kill you.
He's the only one who's allowed to actually do it by the way the school works.
Yes.
But what makes his martial art even deadlier is because he's a master of that martial art style. If you fight him, he can master any martial art style you fight him with.
Right. That's why there's later on in the series. So what he does is he fights these different people, and sometimes there'll be like a mistaken identity kind of thing, or they're forced into fighting him, and then he will become friends with them, and then that person will die. But then he'll take their power and their school of fighting, and that's why he's able to ultimately win, is because he learns all these different styles. And then Yuria she doesn't really fight, but she's actually the head of one of the styles, which I think it's like a middle one or something. Because there's this one dude in the book, they call him the guiding star or something like that. He's the only dude in the whole world that knows that one. And there's all these other ones. There's like guys that used to be like ex-Army Rangers trying to fight him and stuff. It's just a really good series. I liked it a lot when I was a kid, and it really kind of, I was like, okay, this guy's cool. This is what a hero looks like. And this also
is a man's man.
Right. Yeah. But his whole quest is to find his love, right? That's the whole reason he's doing all of this. Yeah, and these are like different guys he has to fight and stuff. There's also what are called his brothers. They're people that are in the same school as him. One of them's named Raul, and this dude is like super badass. And that's the book I can't find, is his face off with him.
Oh.
Then later they do another whole series where they go to a whole nother continent, and there's this guy over there named Eye-O, and that guy is so powerful that when he powers up, like smoke comes out of his like mouth and stuff, almost like magic. And yeah, he will. So what he'll do is he can punch so fast you can't even see it. He can kick so fast you can't even see it. And
so yeah, Reo was the oldest of the students when Kenshiro was chosen as the successor. So and that's why they became rivals.
Right.
And in the middle of that fight, which I'm not going to tell you why it happened, Souther comes along and basically jumps Kenshiro, sort of murders him, and kidnaps Yuria.
Right. And he throws him down this giant like crevice, and so that's her up in the left-hand corner up there. Those two kids are like sidekicks, and the little girl, she has a flower, like seeds, and I can't remember the whole premise of her though, but she's like a
She's their parents were killed, and the brother's been taking care of her, and she's mute, and Kenshiro cures her basically.
But there's something special about her. They have a connection. Like she yells out to him, and then
she has like psychic powers,
yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah, and then see the guy to his right, how the lines are coming off his hand. That's the guy using the Southern style, where instead of punches, they get their chi to come out of their hands, and they can slice you with it, like totally cut you to ribbons, like chunks coming off you and cut your arms off and stuff.
When
and
I was a kid, I saw this anime, the movie version. And him was the most badass thing I've ever seen, because he's just walking around using his chi, cutting off people's arms, like their limbs and their heads and shit, just walking by them and doing that.
By the way, the worst adaptation of anything ever made was the live action adaptation.
Oh, that live action.
That thing was
yeah, they should just give that shit up.
But so the books are, they're traditional manga in black and white. And the story's way longer than like the movie or the TV show, but they had a TV show that ran and it was animated, and they had a movie that they did, and the movie kind of condenses the first probably good portion, like maybe 12 books or something, into the movie.
Yeah, the movie, and it's like the first season of the show, the fight with Souther, basically.
Right, but it was like when I saw it. Because, you're reading like, American comic books, and they're pretty good. And you got, Spider-Man and Superman and Batman and stuff. But this had like dudes' heads exploding, and just, it was crazy. Like he was like, he did a karate chop on this dude's head, and he like put an indentation in the middle of his skull. Right. and his eyeballs are popping out. And I was like, wow. Yeah. So that was like, that picture you just had up was like all the dudes that all these guys, he's killed all of them.
Yeah, there's a point where they attack him with a tank, and he hits the pressure points on the tank and causes it to explode.
So it's like super over the top, but it's cool and it's emotional. His connection with the kids, and when he finds Yuria, that was super powerful. At least when I was a kid.
No, it would still be, if you haven't seen it or read it for a while. It would still. This is a tragedy, by the way. This Pistol North Star, it's a tragedy.
Right. Yeah, that's him after he powered up. So his shirt like ripped off. He's all super cut and powered, and he gets defeated a lot. But because they defeat him, he learns stuff. Like there's this one guy he fights. The reason he can't beat him is a dude is a mutant and his heart's on the other side of his body, and he doesn't know it yet. So he can't like do his pressure point thing. The guy's physiology isn't like a normal human. There's another guy called Toki that was actually better than him, but he saved a bunch of people when the bombs fell, and he locked them himself out of the bunker, and so he got irradiated, and he's all like effed up now.
He was actually losing to another guy, and the king of a local area, if I remember the storyline, taught him a martial art called Genko Koken, which gave by fighting Kenshiro, right? And Genko Koken gave Kenshiro the ability to control his body at a subcellular level. So he was able to beat the other guy who was like blowing up his cells, basically.
But it's a super long story to get to where the stuff we're talking about. I know it's all disjointed and whatever, but it's a really good run series. And if you can get a hold of it, I highly recommend it. At least to check it out. To see
and the form will read fast. If you go up the animated route, you'll be there a while.
Yeah. Well, if you try to read the books, you'll be there a long time too. But
not as long as watching all 800 episodes. There's a lot of
800 episodes.
I have all of it, and there's
800 episodes.
There's like side series and like.
Yeah, that's if you go the full route. There's side series where they go to the other continent and he fights the guy Kaio.
Yeah. Like they adapt everything, and I mean everything.
Wow.
I'm just not an anime person.
Just read the manga; it's worth it.
I would check out the very first book and see if you like it or not. It might not be for everybody. If you're a young, like 14 or 15-year-old, it is absolutely for you. If you're a guy,
absolutely,
for sure, 100%.
Explains a lot. Now,
I would go
begging me to read her Chainsaw Man manga, and I tell her, said it's just not my bag, baby. It's just not
Chainsaw
my
Man
bag.
is dope. I
Oh,
love
that's
that
a-
manga.
and you are probably a lot younger than me.
Do you
So
like dark vampire horror with comedic overtones?
I wrote
Well-
a vampire book. Does yeah.
There's a
Danny,
12
if I could recommend an anime series that you might want to just check out an episode or two, just to see if it's up your alley, My Hero Academia. It is,
Oh,
well, I was going to
eh.
recommend something
I
shorter.
can't watch things that my kids are into, first of all, because then it's not cool for them anymore. And
Ah.
secondly,
Why
I
not
was
ruin
watching
it for 'em?
anime back in 1985 when my aunt brought them. My aunt was Japanese, and she's like, "Hey kids, you want to watch a cartoon?" And my little brother and I are like, "Yeah." And then the next thing you know, we're hiding under a bed because people's skin is ripping off because they're turning into werewolves on subways, and it was terrifying.
Seems completely legit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's good babysitting technique.
that's exactly that's the
Keeps
that's
kids under
proper
control.
Yeah, I
upbringing.
want
Yeah.
you.
I,
No,
I
I
don't see
like-
the problem with this.
I wish I
Like
had
I-
your aunt.
I liked Akira. I liked Vampire Hunter D.
Vampire Hunter D was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think it's not my go-to, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
there's a manga and an anime called Hellsing. 12 issues, 12 episodes. If you like Vampire Hunter D, you probably like this.
Okay.
For sure.
yeah, Helsing also
Yeah.
highly
Also-
recommended.
also
the
another-
manga and
Yeah, yeah.
the Hellsing Ultimate version of it, not the regular.
Right. Yeah. The contemporary box set of Helsing with all the new
Castlevania on
features.
Netflix isn't that bad either.
And I
Yeah,
just
I've
have
heard
to
that.
point out,
Yeah.
Copa, the fact that you said Chainsaw Man is dope.
It is dope.
The fact that you said it was dope, that right there just proves it that it's probably too young for me.
No, it's legit.
Held it
Chainsaw
dope.
Man. I don't know about the anime. I haven't watched the anime yet, but the manga itself is fantastic.
Oh, it's sitting
outstanding.
on my bookshelf, and
Oh,
she's
read
like,
it.
"You've got to read it." I'm like, when? First of all, when do I have time?
It's
it's really-
batshit. It's batshit crazy.
I love that.
Yeah.
Every single moment of that manga is batshit crazy. I loved every moment of that.
Okay,
manga,
I'll
every
read it, but
page.
not because my 18-year-old daughter told me to.
Yeah, read it because I told you to. You're cool.
that-
Don't worry about it.
Again,
And
I can't help it. They're just gonna do what they're gonna do.
And Shieldwall, I wanted to mention that your nod towards Fist of the North Star. I wanted to mention that for anybody that hasn't seen either the manga or the anime adaptation, which is classic 80s edgelord kung fu nonsense, it's fantastic, crazy gore, insane combat. But I wanted to mention that it is the predecessor to Ninja Scroll, and anybody that's seen Ninja Scroll knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Ninja
like
Scroll.
the more grounded cousin of Fist of the North Star, but you could see where the inspiration is. Giant people with insane powers and blood all over the map, no
and
problem.
teeny tiny little heads.
Just
That's
don't.
right.
Yeah, that's right. Just don't watch the show. Watch the movie Ninja Scroll.
Fist of the
That's
North
right.
Star
The
I've
movie
seen
Ninja
it.
Scroll.
I have sons in their 20s. I have seen it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Wow, that was a weird selection tonight. That got good. We had a lot. That was a lot. There was a lot in there tonight. That was great, guys.
I didn't
I
think- I
knew that
never
there was
thought in
no
a
way
million
you were going to
years-
squeeze this into 2 shows, Roman. It's just
Oh yeah, we're
impossible.
pushing 3 hours right now.
I had no
Yeah,
idea
that's
we were
why-
going to
that's
end
why
it
we're
on
going to
Fist of
have-
the North Star. That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
She's-
How long was the show tonight? Well,
yeah, it was a
well,
4 beer.
it was a 5-beer episode.
Yeah.
We will revisit this in a couple. We'll call it probably 3 weeks or so. So I will invite you all back for that if you have the desire to be here for it. And so on that we are going to wrap, and we'll go around the horn here, and then we will exit for the evening. Shieldwall, you got anything coming up, buddy?
Yeah, I'm gonna be on Jacob Ironside's stream. Well, I'll be on whatever you invite me on too if you want. I'm down for that. But I'll be on Jacob Ironside's stream on the 24th, I believe. I got to check my DMs. But I will be on a stream. Sorry, I can't remember what that stream is going to be about, but it'll be something cool, I'm sure. But he invited me on there. I really appreciate that.
Still
That's
out there?
be a good time. Yeah, he's in the chat. Let's see here.
I'm looking
Close
it up right
Encounters.
now.
That's what we're going to talk about. That's a
Oh.
great movie.
Awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
And
Those
so I got-
aliens, while similar to ET, are better than ET.
That's because
Yeah.
you barely see him.
Yes, as aliens, that's how they should be.
But they do play
Yeah.
the piano very well. So
Yeah, and I remember my parents going to that movie and coming home and like telling me about it. Like we were me and my brother on our bunk beds. I just have that memory. They came in and were like, "What movie did you see?" And they said, "Close Encounters," and they said it was pretty cool. And I was like, "Okay, cool."
Well,
But
that whole scene with that kid Barry was terrifying as a
Oh
kid.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Great movie though.
And he was a shit anyway, though. I wish they had just taken him. It's fine.
How many of
You
you
take
never
him.
looked at mashed
You wish
potatoes
he never
this
gave
thing?
them back.
Oh,
yeah, the mashed potato thing was.
this means something.
But anyway, thanks for having me on. This is great. I always learn so much between Matt and Steven and Copa now. You know, he's got like the writing chops. And then, of course, Danny, she's bringing out stuff. It's like back in 1927, this person did this, and which is awesome. I really love listening
I'm a
to it.
writer too.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. You are.
So you can't just throw it out for one. That's why, you do it for one. You got to
It's
do
her-
it for
it's
all.
her
You
Jennifer
got to bring
Tilly
enough
looks that
candy
are
for all the
throwing me
kids. Matt, what do you got coming up, buddy?
still working on my Bleach first reviews to the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. I'm be doing some more videos about Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast shooting themselves in the foot with the Open Gaming License 1.1, that BS they're pulling off, which is good. I'm glad because I hate them owning Dungeons and Dragons to begin with. Also, since I'm getting back into pro wrestling, I'm doing some reactions to like wrestling compilation videos.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going back and watching clips from like 15 years ago that people compile, and I'm like, wow, people actually like. There are things like as a wrestling fan that like you can't let someone do to themselves, like the headshots with the chairs the way they used to do them, where they really used to hit each other with chairs in the head. Like you can't now. Concussions, you know what I mean? But you would see back in the day, guys like wham, and the chair just molds around his head, and he goes, "I'll do it, wham." Now they do chair shots like this, like they have the arm up, so it hits the arm first.
Well, it's not just the concussions; it's the compressed discs.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure it was the concussions that caused some of the.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah,
pro wrestling career.
Is that what it was? Too many suplexes on people?
It was
they don't hurt
hit
that much.
on the head. Too many.
I was a real
times.
wrestler, like real wrestling, and even on concrete, getting suplex doesn't hurt that much. So
I do not want to be suplexed.
And I'm doing reactions to spooky videos. So
just like random spooky videos.
There's a whole bunch of challenges. Just post like lists of spooky videos, and I watch them because I'm curious about what some people like. Some people's reactions, like they're going in the woods in the total dark, and something surprises them, and of course they're gonna get scared, right? And you see them run off, and you can kind of laugh at it or whatever. So, well, sometimes people legitimately record things that are like weird, and or it depends on what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the ones I did was top 5 dangerous animal encounters. So like yeah. But so and because I'm doing those because even though I enjoy them, I think about them when I watch it. I'm like, there are these people who have like million subscribers just doing reactions to those types of videos. And I'm like, I enjoy this stuff. I'll throw a few on there, and see what happens. And I got 6 subscribers since I did it. So,
well,
good for you.
Plus, do what you enjoy. If you enjoy wrestling, go talk about wrestling. If you just do what you enjoy, make sure. Yeah.
Although sometimes you do things you don't enjoy, like She-Hulk. Copa, what do you have coming up, buddy?
I agree. Let's have a She-Hulk show, just you and I, and we just shit on it.
Oh, I'm so in.
My turn.
First of all, plug the book. Plug the book.
All right, here comes the book.
Here comes
the book
the
is
book.
Why Not Wichita.
That's
I wrote
right.
it myself.
And did the cover as well, didn't you?
I did the cover as well. I wish I didn't, but I'm a cheap bastard, so I did it. So, the new cover art, actually, the cover artist for the next book is actually hanging behind me.
Oh, wait, hang on. Let me.
I don't know if you, yeah. So that's
Oh.
the design of my hero Miriam from the first book, and that's all our concept art for the next book. And he decided to montage it and give it to me as a gift for Christmas.
Cool.
Oh,
So,
Nice.
yeah, it was really nice of him. It was probably one of my best giving gifts of all time. Definitely in the top 10. I was thoroughly shocked when he handed it to me. So,
Wow.
yeah, I have the book. Just did a review on the Indian fantasy film, historical fantasy film called Bahubali, or Bahubali, I should
Bahubali.
say. Yeah, Bahubali. I did Bahubali 1 2 weeks ago. I finished it up with 2 this week. Yesterday was the second one. And next week I review Bullet Train.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
like
then
Bullet
I
Train.
have a show with Roman here next week. We're going to be talking about Road Warrior. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What
I'm
a-
looking forward to that one.
Oh, hell yeah. That's one of my favorites. So,
Right
you should get
on.
your wayward son who's never seen these movies onto that.
I know. He's he's out of state right now. He'll be back. I don't know if I'll have enough time to get him to watch the damn movie beforehand though. That was actually Blair's suggestion because I threw a couple of things at him this week. I'm like, well, we could do this, or we could do this. He's like, do this. Make John watch the movie. I'm like, all right, because it's like a big joke. Well, it's not a big joke. It's just really sad, is what it is. Neither here nor there. So, all right, Stephen Ransom, you got anything coming up, buddy?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'm basically focused on this invite here with Roman of the Empire, and I would beg to differ on the suplexing. If it happens to be Mrs. of the Empire, I could easily see you coping with some suplexing in that manner. But I'm getting off topic. No, you could find me here or making some quick mentions on Twitter. I just recently got bona fide employment, so I'm currently coping with some busyness on that quarter, but you could definitely find me in and around here, and certainly chatting up on several different chats, Flaccid Phoenix, Zax, and a couple other channels. I've been popping by Cannoli Sasquatch's channel a couple of times as well, and they got a lively chat and a great bunch of people on the panel there. Good times. It's really great to join this community and throw my 2 cents in.
And I am glad you are back, buddy. And congratulations on the job, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
And Danny, comics and cosmetics, the lone girl on the panel.
The token lady. Well, I have a video dropping on Saturday. A very good friend of mine. His legal name is D Tails, and he'll kill me if I say his real name. But no, he was in a boy band in the 90s called MN8. They were on the Bad Boy soundtrack. He was friends with my boyfriend, and then we became friends. He's been in 4 Star Wars films. He's a creature performer. He was Quay Tolsite in Solo, a Star Wars movie. Amelia Clark killed him on Kessel. But he was also in episode 6 of Willow this a couple weeks ago. He played one of the trolls that was smart enough to talk and stuff. But he's a good friend. He does a lot of acting and really cool stuff. And so we have an episode coming out Saturday where I sit and talk to him about his life as a creature performer, his inspiration, his career in the industry. So that's coming out. But after that comes out, then there won't be anything coming out for a couple of weeks. I will be in Florida, and then I'll be back long enough to probably put out 1 episode and 1 live show. And then I'll be gone again in LA, spending time with Brian Sipe, who was the makeup artist on Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, some Endgame, Infinity War. He did the scrolls, all that stuff. So I will be learning some really, really awesome special effects makeup stuff from literally the best in the business. So I'm pretty excited, and I'll probably have some stuff to post when I get back.
Girl, you showing up in LA. We got to do brunch, darling. We got to do
Well,
brunch. Let's do brunch when you
I'll
get
be
into
there
LA.
5 days. We totally can.
Catch me up on the Twitter, sweetheart.
5 days in LA. That's a lot of time in LA.
Isn't there
I
like
know I'm a
movie
little
fucking
worried
days in
because I am super Midwestern in the respect that I do what I want, and you're not going to tell me what to do.
If
Well,
you,
I
if you
can tell
find
you
time to
as
come
a
south,
bona fide LA citizen,
Uh-huh.
don't let the news hype you out. It's not like that at all. It's actually on the street, regular pedestrians. You don't have a
Mhm.
thing to worry about. It's
Okay,
totally
cool
cool
beans.
here.
No.
It's much more chill than the news is letting on. Don't let it hype you out.
Oh no, it's not necessarily the news. It's all my friends that I know that live in California are like, we're moving the heck out of here.
Well, yeah, there is that, of course, but whatever. It ain't so
This guy.
bad.
all right. Well, let's see. On Friday, Father Miller is not going to be back, so I won't be on his show. On Saturday, I will be over with PJ maybe at 12 Pacific Standard for Let's Talk Geeky. And I don't really have anything in between. So next Thursday at 5 Pacific Standard, as it always is, we are going to be having the deep dive into the Road Warrior. This is what I wanted to do for a long time, and Blair finally talked me into it. And we got most of the panel lined up, not quite all yet, but we have another very, very good panel. So I'll be sitting there looking like a dork again while everybody outshines, which is the way you want it. Because everybody's smart, which is nice. It's great having a panel that knows their shit. So Road Warrior next Thursday, and that's it for this week. Thank you so much to the chat for hanging out and all the good input. Some of it was a little quirky, not gonna lie. And for the fantastic panel tonight, Shieldwall and Matt and Danny and Steven and Copa and Left Eye E.G.O and Daniel. Man, quite the powerhouse for the comic book chat. And we will get back to this, like I said, in about 2-3 weeks or so. We'll come back for a volume 3 because I actually have stuff lined up that I haven't chatted about at all yet. So thank you very much. Please like and subscribe and be kind.